Hello, everybody! If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my one and only co-host, Tom. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Hello, friends.
Tom, good to have you on the show. As always, joining us as well, the man, the myth, the legend, the Warhammer hero, my personal idol in life, someone I hope to be more like every day. Two plus tough, Doug. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
That's a lot to live up to. I'm doing well, thank you.
Doug, you should be
the guy who has the cure for cancer. Everything else.
We're going to be diving into the new Fyreslayers tome tonight. Mm-hmm. That's right. We're going to talk about naked ginger dwarves. That's what we're going to do. Spend hours doing that. If there was truly one army in this entire game that I did not care about at all, it would be this. So I've brought on two people who are very passionate and excited about this book to share their opinions, namely Tom and Doug, who are...
What that means is that Vince didn't even open the book.
Yep, no research.
Zero. We're going in cold, baby. I'm going to learn everything as we go. It should be fine.
That's
First react.
We'll do it live.
No, obviously I did read the book, but I'll admit a lot of it washes off me.
Exactly.
This stuff doesn't stick. Because my brain doesn't want to retain information it knows it will never need to use, because I will A, never play this army, and B, my chances of playing against this army at a tournament are so close to zero as to not be worth worrying about.
Oh, you'll play me. It'll be okay. And I will give you a terrible experience. It'll be fun.
Sure that's true.
Yeah.
But
or Tom will bring him to Warhammer World or whatever. Or Holy Havoc.
Yeah.
But of course, first, the news. Tom, what do we got? Did Tom open the news before this time? Nope.
You know, we live in an interesting day and age. Let's just talk briefly about I don't know, we'll pick the war in Ukraine.
Let's not. That sounds like something not to talk about at all.
Well, what we'll do is I will start with the news item that GW has decided to stop selling models there.
In Russia, you mean?
In Russia, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a surprising move, but it was a move. It happened. And by the way, that's not on your news list. Shame on you, Vince.
I left it off because it happened and I have nothing to say about it. Other than, it is a wide world of geopolitical disaster, so it's beyond me.
It did. And yes, of course, Kenny, this is stalling. Of course.
So let's get to the actual news.
Okay, that's fair. So we have this grenade spear.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we have sword guns, and now we have grenade spears.
Well, this is a traditional... So this is one of two things. This is either a Rough Rider Lance from 40K. Because, as we all know, DMX is alive and well in the 41st century. And his Rough Riders carry grenade lances. I used to play Rough Riders quite a bit when I played Imperial Guard back in the day. Anyways, this is one of their weapons. So it's either a new Rough Rider of some kind, or it's an Ash Wastes Necromunda type thing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Either. It could be that, they know well that these grenade lances existed for Rough Riders. And so they're like, oh, haha, we'll trick them. We'll put this out there. But it's actually an Ash Waste thing. Oh, swerve. Right.
Yeah, It's probably an Ash Waste thing. And that's fine. I want Mad Max crazy people hijacking trains with grenade spears.
Yep. Sounds fun to me.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. But more importantly than all that, let's talk about the new U.S. Open season that was announced.
Boom. There's the map. It is up on the screen.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that was this week. For some reason, I thought it was last week.
And, I would say locations that are probably more central to more people this time, I think.
Yes.
With
you mean
Seattle,
not Orlando, New Orleans, and
Austin?
And Austin?
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Seattle, Washington, San Diego, California, Santa Ana, Pueblo, New Mexico, which I don't know what that is. Is that a suburb of a larger city? in New Mexico? I didn't look it up, but I
Pueblo?
assume that's where it is.
I think it's Phoenix area. Maybe.
That's Arizona.
No,
That's a
maybe it's
state.
not. I don't know. It's all down in those.
That's
Albuquerque.
the other one down there.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's the other sandy, dusty place.
Sure.
Yeah. So no, there's nothing down there.
It's right near that,
If
right
it's
there in the
not
Lone
Phoenix-
Star State. They call it the Windy City, the big banana. That's what it is.
If it's not in Phoenix, then there's really just nothing down there.
Sure.
I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
know if
it's
that's like near a larger city. I have not heard of that city, so I assumed it was a suburb of another city. And then Kansas City and Chicago. Like, you look at that list, and those are all quite well-known U.S. cities, except for that one. And so I was playing the one
Greg's basement.
Right, exactly. Just like an old abandoned shack in the middle of the Montana wilderness. So I just assumed that was probably the case.
Montana, also a different state, but continue.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just, my point is, like, it's as though when they say, like, the Warhammer Citadel is in, Grapevine or something like that, Texas, and it's like, well, okay, but that's really the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Yes, you're in. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't fly into Grapevine or whatever, you fly into Dallas.
No one has purposefully gone to Grapevine and been excited about it in decades.
Right. Yeah, I know that's your old stomping ground there, Doug.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tristan said it's at Rolling Bad's Recliner Warehouse. I like it. I like that. So, at any rate, the new U.S. Open season, 5 locations, so bigger season. I do like the locations. Tom, you making your way to Chicago, or are you going to Kansas City? Which one are you going to hit, or both?
I think I'm probably going to go to Kansas City because, in looking at like my commitments this fall, I think I can make Kansas City work more easily than Chicago. But maybe not. I don't know. Like we'll see is the right answer. I'm going to make one of them, but the unfortunate thing is that one of my dear friends in Houston is getting married when finals is in November. So even if I were to qualify, I can't do the championship.
Gotcha. Well, there you go. Please pass along that I appreciate not getting an invite. As usual, I know exactly who it is, and just tell him it's exactly what I would expect from him.
Invites have not been sent out yet, so it's not your fault.
Sure.
He just gave me a save the date phone call.
No, that's fine. He's a good dude. Okay. So,
Maybe you should be a better DM. He'll invite you next time.
Maybe you should be. How about that? At any rate, I'm excited about the new season. It seems cool. Last one was well received. Seems like they do some fun stuff. Cool. Good stuff.
Man, it'd be nice to have something on the East Coast, right?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it'll move around year over year. The East Coast is pretty expensive, especially for renting like large space.
It is.
I'm sure that's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it feels like they should look in like maybe North Carolina or something. That'd be a good place. That'd be a cool place to go. There's some good places down there in like the Research Triangle that they could probably go.
Yeah, hanging out in Raleigh, that would be cool. I'd go there.
Yeah, maybe it doesn't have to be northeast, right? So it could be the old southeast Atlantic region there. At any rate, what else we got in the news?
So you ready for this?
Blow my mind hole.
All right, Battle Scroll. So,
guess what, everybody? You're in luck.
I'm going to pause. I'm going to let both of you go for a second. So, Tom, any high-level thoughts on Battle Scroll before I get into it?
I'll let Doug go first.
Okay. Doug?
Okay. For me, my main takeaway was that they're trying something new, and I firmly encourage that. Whether or not it will this specific approach, when I look at things, it's not just the immediate change, but what this could show in the future. So like they threw this together and then they can tweak it, just like they did with the mercenary rules or any number of rules that have been bolted onto AOS over time into this epic snowball that is 3rd edition. And so the way I look at it very positively. It's not a good change necessarily now, but it heralds cool design directions in the future. So
cool.
Does that make sense?
It does.
It's not the
Totally
hero
makes
we
sense.
needed, but it's the hero we kind of want later on when they figure out their powers.
Yeah, no, I mean, conceptually, I think what you're saying. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please tell me if I'm wrong. But conceptually, what you're saying is you like this kind of like positive exploration. It's good to see them chart new game design space and look at alternative ways to kind of shake the game up, as they have frequently in the past. And regardless of the implementation or execution of this specific one, you like in general the idea that they don't see it as a calcified game, right? They're still willing to experiment and look at different angles on
Yes, and you know, regardless of effectiveness, I like the concept or the focus of like, let's try to just not change the books and see how we can raise up the bottom versus punishing the top too much.
Mm-hmm.
Which not everyone. I mean, some people would think that they punished various factions, but I don't know. Overall, I like it. I'm going to play around with it and try. And then I thought, I just talk to your TO and see if they want to use it. That's all there is.
Right on. Tom?
I mean, it's fine. I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be pretty meaningless. And I don't mean that dismissively per se. It's just that it's not. I don't think that it's going to turn as many games as you think it might.
Of course.
I think that it's only going to. It's actually once this outrage cycle passes, I think it's going to be largely forgettable.
Yep.
Probably so much so that most people are really going to forget that it's even a thing. Many are. Let me say it that way. And many will probably even forget it's a thing in the actual event itself. Like people remembering to like score those points and stuff like that. Like in general, it's just not going to be a thing, likely. Like a real big news item, a real big complaint, until it is. And what I mean by that is what's going to happen is we'll have one or two instances where this will overturn an event. This will, and what might happen is the person that they're playing like has forgotten that extra points are being scored. And then each are kind of tallying their points or whatever. You get to the end of the game, and suddenly a win was a loss. Mm-hmm. And it might be at a high table, and it's going to throw up a bunch of shade and open a bunch of wounds, and it's just going to be a mess. Because in general, most games, it's going to be inconsequential until it is consequential. Like I know it sounds silly, but like I don't know that it's going to generate anything but feel bad experiences. For a majority of the base, because what it's going to do is it's either going to be forgettable, unattainable, or punishing. You know, that captures a majority of the base. Forgettable, punishing, or unattainable. And then for the handful of armies that can actually capitalize on this, that have a strong enough base to hunt those targets.
Yep.
They are going to do great with it. So all I gotta say is night haunt bitches. I am ready.
Fantastic ending to your thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god, that was so dramatic of a neck crack.
Let's get into it.
So here's the deal, everybody. You get not one PowerPoint tonight, but two. Because Vince was so worked up about this that that he made another PowerPoint.
Was and am. Here we go. Let's talk about economics in Warhammer. That's right. That's what we're going to talk about, because that's what this is. This is just raw, unbridled Econ 101. Okay? Because this is an incentive structure. The very basics of economics is the belief that through the altering of incentives, you can change behavior. This can range from very small effects, like the nudge units in various countries, including the UK, that have shown great success at changing slight behaviors with low-cost solutions, to extremely large incentive structures, like changing your entire tax code or something like that. Creating and isolating out the 401k so that money moves into Wall Street as opposed to, say, private savings or something like that. So this is nothing more, nothing less than incentives. It doesn't change any of the actual rules. It just simply says these are your incentives. Do this, you get bonuses. Do this, you get pain. Those are incentives in the simplest form. So we are applying economic principles to Warhammer. Okay? All right, great. So what does this do? I don't really feel I need to explain all of the detail that's on this slide at this point because, frankly, all of this has been covered like 100,000 times. But in brief, there are now a list of priority targets. Priority targets are Warscrolls that they have identified as effectively too powerful. Okay?
Or too prolific. It could be that as well.
They're using prolific as a substitute for power.
Yeah.
Like they say they show up too much. There's plenty of Warscrolls that show up in a lot of lists that aren't here on this list. So that cannot be the cut point alone. Right? Because there are simply more popular Warscrolls than these.
Sure.
All right. So those now become priority targets. When you kill them, you get some number of scaling additional victory points. What this means in the shortest form is that there are now more victory points in the mix of what you can get. Okay, theoretically. The maximum score for a single battle tactic, instead of being 3 or perhaps 4, is now 8. Just as a simple example. Okay? If you had a Prime Hunter, which we'll talk about, if you had a Prime Hunter monster complete a battle tactic to kill a battle line unit of, let's say, 6 dragons, that would be worth 8 points. Okay.
Cool.
So,
I love it.
So, and I encourage you to attempt to do that calculation on your own. It's fun. And I am sure about, I would say at least 30% of the people that run into such a similar or close situation in a game will get it right. At least 30% will get it correct. I wouldn't bet much higher than that. This also introduces the concept of Prime Hunters. Prime Hunters are effectively underpowered armies, right? So Sylvaneth, Gloomspite, Bone Splitters, there we go. Heed Knights, Skaven, Nighthaunt, and Osiarch. The idea being that all of these factions are in some way underpowered, and so they can score an additional extra point whenever they kill these priority targets. So if you're not a priority target, by the way, you do not score the points if you kill a priority target with a priority target. So if you use your Fulminators to bring down a Gatebreaker, no points are scored, no money changes hands. Fantastic. If you, however, use your Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon to bring down a Gatebreaker, you get 2 points. If you use the Black Coach to bring down a Gatebreaker, you get 3 points. If you use a Gatebreaker Mega Gargant in a Gloomspite Gitz army as a mercenary to bring down a Gatebreaker Mega Gargant in a Sons of Behemoth army, you get 3 points. Somehow that is also true. Here we are. Because the giants all exclude their use as mercenaries. If you use Kragnos in a Bone Splitter army to kill a Gatebreaker, you get 3 points. So good times. All right. So that's the basics. That's just laying down the facts of the situation. Okay? Now let's get into it. Overall feelings. There are 3 normal methods of balance changes. Warscroll changes, rules changes, and points changes. The reason I separate Warscroll and rules is because those are 2 very different things in practice of what they've shown they can do. So, like, rules changes generally happen through, like, an FAQ, where it'll be sort of buried in here, right? And they'll say, like, replace the text of this with this. Whereas a Warscroll change, they'll often publish a new Warscroll. They do this all the time. Think of the last one of these, right? Where we got new scrolls for Kragnos, Archeon, and Nagash. Okay. So, this adds a 4th method, right? This is an incentive structure method of altering of changing the perceived overall balance. Now, whether it's effective at that, that is something we're going to discuss in a moment, but it is theoretically a venue. They're trying to use an incentive-based structure instead of direct market intervention. Again, this is all just econ. Okay? Where I begin with is the following. Game Design 101 is all game design rules must answer a single question. Does this need to exist? When you are writing a game, you have to start with a set of guiding principles that then, from that point, every rule you write has to be checked against them, and you always ask the question, does this need to exist? If so, why? All game design choices have both good and bad as part of them. Every one. Every game design choice you make has a downside to it, has bad things that happen. Mm-hmm. So even when they're overwhelmingly good, they're still bad. And even overwhelmingly good things, when added en masse without answering this question, makes a bad game. You can have a terrible game consisting of nothing but good rules. Okay? You can throw a single stone in a river, nothing changes. You throw a couple thousand stones in the river, you dam the river. All right. So, why does this exist? Their answer they gave was balance. Right? That was the straight up answer given in the article. I'll take them at their word. Okay? Does it do that? This is the question that needs to be answered. Because if it doesn't do that, then not only does this fail, but it's worse than that. Because it's added rules bloat, and it's created unintended consequences all over the system.
Yep.
Okay? And that leads us to the next part of economics. When you institute large-scale regulation incentives to change behavior, you have unintended consequences, secondary and tertiary unintended consequences.
Yep.
Again, this is just sort of
and the heart of this is soft incentives. That's what this is.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if this doesn't work, it's worse than just this thing not working. There's more on the line here.
Sure.
Okay. The challenges. Okay. What's good about this? It shows they know what the problem units are. Like, they've made a pretty good list of the problem units. Like, I don't mean that flippantly. I mean that seriously.
They have accurately diagnosed the problem.
Right. Like, yeah. Like, there are a few units that I would have put on here. There are a few units I wouldn't have put on here. But they've accurately, to some degree, diagnosed that, like, hey, these things are too efficient or powerful. By the way, go ahead, Doug. I want you to be able to interject. So, what were you going to say?
Oh, no. I was just. You're like, well, they know what the problem is, and it just made me think of an expert that was hired in the O.J. Simpson trial to like verify that they were stabbed. He's like an 8-year medical guy, just being like, yeah, they got stabbed. It's like, yeah, we all know the problem.
I couldn't.
Well documented.
I couldn't agree more. Okay. Yeah, like. Anybody who plays this game to any degree knows these problem units. Like, it's just
some would argue that
often prima facie
on that
obvious.
list.
What's that?
Some would argue that there are other units that needed to be on that list, like Sentinels.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a perfect list. Okay, like, but they got most of them. They got that's a good list. It's not a bad list. All right. And it's a good concept to play with game mechanics as a balance function. And it shows they know where the weak armies are. Like, one of the things I've talked about was that, they could mess with game mechanics and incentives as an actual method of balancing armies in an army book. Like, imagine you had an army that wasn't very good at offense, wasn't very good at defense, wasn't super mobile, right? But had yeah, sure. But imagine they had a bunch of special things going on that were bespoke, written into their rules. That was like, they got extra points when they did certain battle tactics or whatever, right? If they held 1, 2, held 1, held 2, held 3, or held more, sorry. If they achieved that, maybe they got 4 points instead of 3, right? You could play with different things like that to give them chances, right? So you could actually make them mechanically powerful to balance against the weaker, quote unquote, in-game rules. So that's theoretically on there. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. What's bad about this? And I'm just using words like good and bad because I just want to avoid sort of normative connotations. Like, we're just going to take this down to 5-year-old words like good and bad. Okay. It does not create balance. It creates new winners and losers. It does do that. But it doesn't really help the lesser armies win or stop good, powerful armies from exploiting it.
Yep.
Okay.
Looking at you, IDK.
Yeah, like, if you're, if you're already good, I'll talk about it more in a moment, but if you're already good and have a deep bench, You can now exploit this to go hunt extra points. One of the armies that should be most excited right now is something like Seraphon, who has a ton of great units, many of whom are not on that list. They got 2 on that list. Who cares? They're hunting now. Right? They are the hunter. Okay.
Yep.
It is also, this is actually my major problem with it. Point 2 is my major problem with it. It's completely based on killing.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is it overweights the importance of killing. We left that world behind.
Yeah.
When we left behind fantasy battles, right? When we said, no, we're playing an objective-based game now. And, like, killing is part of it and weights in, right? But objectives are what matter. That's how you score, right?
So,
and we'd already pushed back into killing to some degree with the battle tactics, often in the current round of crop of battle tactics, often incentivizing killing. This pushes even harder.
Well, and the irony is that these units often are overly tuned towards killing. Like, they are overly efficient killing units already. And so the response it's given is more killing, just the other direction.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like, imagine a world where instead of it being based on killing these units, you just said they can't contest objectives.
Sure. Like, there could have been other ways you played with this. Yes, that wouldn't.
Imagine a world where you just said dragons can't contest objectives.
Sure, you could have gone many different ways, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But they didn't. They said no. All you need is kill. Instantly, that creates a soft secondary incentive of is damage matters more than anything. All right, because that's how you get these points. You don't get these points for partially killing a unit.
Right.
Not for damaging a unit, not for running or retreating from a unit, not for holding an objective when that unit's also contesting it. Nothing. You get it for killing it. So you better hit that unit hard and with everything you got, and it better die.
Yep.
And ramp damage was already the strat. Which leads me to my point number 3. This incentivizes shooting in a big way. The thing that's already the number 1 problem in the game. So if you have a problem with shooting, I would have a problem with this rule set. Because let me tell you what, if I know I could get bonus points, there's 2 choices for how I can get those bonus points. I can take a unit that has to walk across the stupid board, find your unit, get in a punch-up with it, kill it when it has a chance to kill me back or to have other units kill me back, and then I potentially lose the unit I just fought with to your countercharge. Or I can just shoot you from here and risk nothing.
Well, and let me just highlight the point again. These predator units are these priority units are overly tuned combat units. So what you're proposing is sending in lesser tuned combat units into the grinder against these overly tuned ones.
Sure.
That is a losing proposition. The right answer is to shoot them.
Yeah, your gore weren't going to take down the dragons, okay? Or whatever. I know they're not even on the list, but your Gloomspite Gits, your regular Grots weren't taking down the dragons anyways, okay? So shooting is back on the menu in a big way. Like, it's the number 1 way to get this. If you have power projection in your army, I go back to Seraphon. Congratulations, because they've still got a bunch of power projection that wasn't a priority target, meaning they can go hunting hard. It's more complexity for casual players to remember. Point number 4. Do you know how many times players forget the 1 bonus victory point for monsters? All the time. Okay. And so, like, asking them to now on the fly calc this fun interaction of like, okay, I had a prime hunter and he's a monster and I killed your unit as part of my battle tactic, so I get 2 for the tactic, 1 for the bonus, 1 because I killed a monster. You're a priority target. Wait, was that reinforced? Okay, that was reinforced. Good times. Yep. That I'm sure there's no way that would slow the game down or people would mistake or forget those points.
Yep.
Now, on top of that, this is technical debt and not scalable. I think when a lot of people look at this, they look at this as like, this is also just happening now. Like, they think of it in the present. I don't think of things in the present. I think of things in the future. This is tech debt. This isn't scalable. Both those things are separate things, and I'll show you what I mean by both. Are we going to update this every quarter? Like the prime hunters fall off the list automatically when they get a new book. How often do we now update our priority targets? Are those is this now part of the quarterly update where priority targets get updated? Like, if we're going to need to put new stuff on that list, what if IDK comes out? What if IDK is just dominating? And they have units that are just blowing the meta apart, which I would put money on.
You mean Kelly and Kings and Turtles aren't going to be on that list?
Right. Like, does something from from IDK end up on here? Like, how often do we update this? Because this is now something just like points and just like scrolls and just like rules. If you want to put a fourth method in, it's got to stay current. That's tech debt.
Yep.
That's more work somebody has to do. Okay. How long does this stay in the game? Is this like for now until the GHB? Do we just retire this when GHB 2023 comes out and then we say bye? Is this like forever? I don't know. I know Warscrolls rules and points are part of the game forever. I don't know what the heck this vestigial appendix is. Okay.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the fix for bad rules isn't more rules. Oh, and the other thing I'll say is this isn't scalable. When I say scalable, I mean, how many times can you do this? They can't keep making new subsystems like this, these big layered things. Like, we get 1 to 2 of these a year. Can you imagine what the game would look like in 3 years with 6 of these laid on top of the game?
Just imagine Sigmar meme, boom, the hell I can't.
Yeah, just reset it.
I mean, there are already too many layered systems.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, let's talk winners and losers. Winners. Anybody who isn't on this list of priority targets who also was a good army. Like, when you apply massive regulations to an economic system, the people who respond to that the easiest are large, rich companies because they can afford to treat those heavy regulations as the cost of doing business. They can set up whole new departments and just throw bodies at the problem. Mm-hmm, okay. Mm-hmm. Whereas like smaller people, independent people who don't have those kinds of resources, becomes much harder to navigate complex regulations. It's the same thing here. The people who are already winners, who are already rich in our game terms, which is like Soulblight and Idneth and Seraphon, those kinds of armies that were real strong and have a deep bench and don't, have enough priority targets for their good units. Oh, they're going to clean up in this world. This is the rich getting richer, baby. Like, if I was playing Lizards, I would be stoked. If I'm IDK, I already thought IDK was going to rocket to the top of the competitive meta, as it were. This just, you might as well have put them in a catapult and shot them to the moon. Because they're going, baby. Mercenary Mega Gargants. You'll see all of the Mega Gargants just broke their tribes. Because Suns is like the biggest loser out of all of this. And fine, I don't think a lot of people are going to shed a tear. Right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But there will be a ton of Mercenary Mega Gargants who show up since they're accepted. They can, like, in 2 of the armies where they can show up in, they can get you many bonus points for killing things. Mm-hmm. Like, that Gatebreaker costs nothing and can go stomp the crap out of things and get you bonus points everywhere because he is capable of taking out a lot of the other priority targets. Mm-hmm. Ironically, somehow, I agree. Smorgan said it's the biggest buff Seraphon have received. I completely agree. This is the best thing that's happened to Seraphon. Because they risk very little, even if they include a few of the priority targets. Basties are so tough and so ranged, damaging, deadly. Like, it's completely worth it. And you have other great units you can fall back on.
Well, you can force the enemy to make bad decisions to come into you.
Yep. Absolutely. Lumineth Realm Lords, somehow, since Sentinels aren't on the list, and Sentinels are awesome power projection, so just like, Sentinels can be like, bam, bonus points, bam, bonus points, bam, bonus points, woo! Yeah! Like, who doesn't love Mortal Wound, no line of sight shooting with rerolls, baby? Let's get them priority targets. Pop, pop. Good. Great. Make Sentinels better. I say make Sentinels great again. That's what I say. Nighthaunt. So this is actually a buff to them. Both the Death factions, I think, are funny here because there's clearly, it's sort of this weird thing that happened where they had no priority targets, and both of those armies were actually not terrible. Nighthaunt was worse than Bone Reapers. Like, Bone Reapers is a big winner here. They were actually pretty fine. Like, they were coming out kind of in the middle of the stats, as it were. Like, what a great buff for them. Good day to be Bone Reapers. So nice. Storm Fiend Skaven spam. Boy, if you like Storm Fiend spam, today's the day, baby. Because those Storm Fiends are now Prime Hunters and can just go thump, 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 and launch them wind launchers at all the priority targets, just blowing them away. And then, of course, Kragnos, who can show up in multiple of the Prime Hunter armies and somehow count and just go smash people for bonus points, like many bonus points. Okay. Yeah, Nagash. IT said Nagash is humiliated. He's not worth the bonus points, unlike salamanders.
That was kind of my thought. Like, if you're not on that list, if you don't have any models on that list, I just imagine all the Grand Alliance death people being like, oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Rude. Didn't need that.
The reality is that Nagash, he's already not killy enough for his points. And I know that sounds silly, but he's the highest pointed thing in the game, and he's just not killy enough.
Yep.
So, like, I understand why he's not there.
Sure. No. I mean, I don't want him to be there. I'm more just saying it's really funny to have Games Workshop acknowledge, like, these are the battle tomes that are the factions that we have, like, they're already neutered. They're good boys. They're okay.
Yeah, totally. The losers are Stormcast, who did loot, like, many of their powerful units showed up, and often they were reinforced units, and often they were fragile units. Now, they're the weakest of the losers, because one, they were overtuned already. But two, it's one of the few examples where this might work to curtail some dragon spam, because you do risk some points. But I should say, it won't actually matter to any of the loser armies. Like, none of the Prime Hunter armies are going to win against dragons because of this bonus points. Dragons burnt all of those armies off the table at the top of 2. So now, instead of losing 33-5, those armies can lose 33-8. What an exciting day for them. Okay? That's what happens to them. But the problem is they do risk a lot against IDK, Soulblight, and Seraphon, or something like that, or even Lumineth, by running a dragon spam, right? So they're not scared of the Prime Hunters. Get out of here with that name. Get out of here. They're scared of the other people who do not appear on this list and are actually good. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
The Sons of Behemoth are now in a rough time because they're this weird army that actually won by standing around, not by killing things. And so they actually lose very hard on this. Mm-hmm. Like, I really do think this is an interesting nail in the coffin of Sons of Behemoth. They will still just absolutely house all the Prime Hunter armies who can't pass the DPS check. Like, if you couldn't pass the DPS check before, you can't pass it now. Nothing magically changed about your unit's ability to do damage, so they'll still win those, but it just takes them out of, like, actual tournament contention. Okay.
Yeah.
All Prime Hunters except Nighthaunt and OBR are losers because this did nothing to actually help them. You were already losing more or less by turn 2 before. You will continue to do so in the future in most cases. Korn, who apparently wasn't a Prime Hunter for reasons, I guess. I don't know why. They don't seem that strong to me. They have like a 40% win rate, but okay. Sure. I guess that Tome Celestial was better than I thought.
Hell yeah.
Legion of the First Prince, who seem to get just like systematically targeted by the chaos things. Like the priority target list of the chaos.
It reads like the core of a.
Yeah, it was just a Legion of the First Prince army list. You could just play that. That's a valid army. So that's rough. And then Flesh Eater Courts, who have an even lower win rate and somehow are still not showing up on the list. I don't get that. And by the way, I have no book on the horizon. Like, I'm not saying we're not going to get it this year. Who knows? I don't know. But I'm saying we know there's no Death book in the summer books. It's a Chaos and Order book, so it ain't Flesh Eater Courts. Right. So they're waiting until at least fall. Okay. So that's my winners and losers list. It helped no one it was supposed to help, and suddenly will rocket a lot of unintended armies up to the top of the list. Great stuff.
Well, I'm curious to see like how quickly when the Nighthaunt book rolls out, how quickly do they get pulled off that list?
Sure. Well, it's immediate. When the book comes, you drop your Prime Hunter.
Where do you come to that conclusion?
They had said that in the article.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It didn't say that in the actual Prime Hunter sheet. It was in the article.
It didn't. It said it in the article. Yeah.
Okay.
So assuming it'll like automatically roll to the app. When the book drops to the app, it'll update this with that. I would assume. Yep. Okay.
Caleb wants to know if Adepticon should use these rules.
No. Okay, easy answer. I will end with a simple question. Like, if you're unconvinced by everything I've said so far, and I do want to say, I actually agree with Doug's point. Okay, despite everything I've said, I agree with Doug's point, which is well-founded, that I want them to start playing with these new mechanics and explore new design space. This just this particular thing didn't do it. Like, you didn't get there. And this isn't T-ball. You don't get credit for trying. There's no participation trophy. You have to change your game. You own it. Okay?
Yep.
And so, if you're unconvinced by everything I've said, here's the simple answer. Which of these two worlds would you have preferred to live in? This additional rule set, the world we currently live in, or a world where all priority targets of Warscrolls are just fixed? Which one? And to me, that answer is prima facie obvious. I would have they just rather fixed the broken scrolls.
But you're assuming, like, the whatever, like, you're saying it as if it's literally like flipping a switch, and you're assuming that they can fix the broken scrolls.
Haywo did a pretty decent swing at it in 90 minutes.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
I am assuming they can do it because that's what they're literally paid to do.
You're assuming that you saw Haywo do it. You're assuming they could do it.
I am. They're good game designers. They're There's smart people in that building.
I don't disagree with that. But I just wonder. I don't know. Yeah.
So Pinfeldorf said, "What do you mean by fixed? Fixed. I don't care. I don't need to get into the minutia of it. Fixed. Not as overcosted, not as undercosted, overpowerful, game-breaking, obvious choice, whatever. There's a million definitions. Fixed. There are 50 solutions you could do with every war scroll. I'm not the arbiter of what's the correct solution. I'm just the outcome. I am a user. I provide problem statements. And my problem statement is, I would like these war scrolls to be fixed. It's a developer's job to figure out how to implement that.
It just dawned on me that the lifespan on some of the things on this document may be counted in weeks.
Sure, absolutely.
Because Doc and Nighthaunt are coming.
Yep.
So my point is, and just as a final thought, we know they can change the war scrolls. They just did it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The last one of these, which I thought was pretty good, by the way.
Yep.
Like it for the things that they touched, the scrolls they touched. They just published new scrolls and pushed them to the app. Boop. And like they know how to do very targeted, simple but effective and powerful fixes. See Archeon change. There were some minor changes, and yet, man, it hit it. It was like laser focused. Zoop.
Yep.
Okay. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on Battle Scroll. Nice try. Good concept. Please keep exploring design space. I'm glad you know what's wrong. I'm glad you know what armies are weak. Please do things. Please fix things better than this. Like, do the actual work.
Until then, I will take my bonus points at Adepticon. Thank you very much.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Hence the end of the very long news segment. Sorry, everybody, but, I had a lot to say here. Okay.
It's Vince's fault. GW, it's fine. You're doing exploratory stuff. I get that. We can revisit it in 3 months. I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. I think it's going to be largely forgettable. Just fix the scroll.
Yes, just fix the scrolls. All right, let's go to pick of the week. Doug, what would you like to share with everybody this week as we handbrake turn away from this segment?
Yes. For me, oh my gosh, what do I want to? The Gibbering Dome is coming up here for Adepticon, and while I sadly am not going to be able to attend this year, I just wanted to throw a shout out to the guys organizing and running that, because I've been chatting with them a whole bunch recently, and they're just awesome people. I just appreciate them. So yeah, the event organizers are really great. The narrative guys, I mean, specifically.
It's an awesome event. It's an
Mhm.
absolutely awesome event. Like I often find myself wandering by and just watching people play through because it's such a cool, unique experience. So yes, 100%. I support this.
I didn't have a video specifically to share, but I just wanted to talk about the event.
All good. I love it. I can't wait. By the way, folks, we are officially 7 days from Adepticon. That's right. Woo! Coming up fast. Yeah, isn't that number scary? 7 days.
That
Getting close.
I have 10 times that number of models that need to be finished.
Well, that's going to be a good time for you. By the way, I didn't say it yet, but hit like for the return of events. I'm excited about it. I'm very, very, very thrilled to be able to see everybody at this upcoming event, and I hope events are coming back to your area wherever you are. I hope that is something that can happen for you over 2022. So don't forget to hit that like button. Tom, what do you got?
I'm gonna take a detour out of the drama, and even this probably should have been in the news, but I'm gonna focus it now here in my pick of the week. And that's events are back, baby, and that means go get tickets to Midwest Meltdown, which is available now. Tickets are about to go live for Nova in a couple weeks. They're about to go live for NashCon in a couple weeks. There's lots of different stuff happening, and go get tickets. I have a soft spot in my heart for events that do weird things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if you all saw the Midwest Meltdown announcements, but Midwest Meltdown has they're letting you bring a free Underworld's warband.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yes.
So in your Grand Alliance. So if your Grand Alliance order, you can bring anything basically that is within order. And I love it. Like, there's just so many weird corner list ideas that I'm like, well, I wasn't considering bringing this faction, but maybe I might now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, yes. As Martin said, Atlantic City Open tickets as well. Yes, that'd be another one on your list. Yep. Absolutely. As always, you can check AOS Shorts. AOS Shorts keeps on his website keeps a full events list and keeps it very up to date. So you can always go check that out for upcoming events in your area. My pick of the week is going to be actually simply a thing for this show. Which is to say, next week we will be live. Not like we're not live right now, but like live and in person with an audience, whatever that means. Because we will be doing a show live from Adepticon on Wednesday night, immediately after the GW reveal show.
Are we doing it with a live studio audience, or are we hiding in our rooms?
No, we're doing it with a live studio audience, Tom. You didn't watch the show last week, clearly. I guess I didn't bother to tell you this yet, but hey, now you can find out like everybody else. Yes, we're going to do this with a live studio audience. I think we're in Innovation, I think is the room, but it's down in one of the art rooms on Wednesday night. I think it's Innovation, but I don't remember the exact name. It'll start so tomorrow, next week will be a late night show. So it'll be starting at the GW show goes until 10 Central, which is 11 Eastern, and we'll start basically right after that because we'll leave a little early to get everything going. So we'll probably start at 11 Eastern immediately after the GW reveal show.
And it'll be largely a reaction show.
Yeah.
So how many people does that room hold?
I don't know. Some number. Be there early, I guess. I don't know.
I'm just trying to figure out how well you've thought this out. I mean, I'm in, but it's
when we stand up and leave from the show, the reveal show, I don't know, follow, I guess.
It's gonna be quite a walkout. Just, oh, Captain, my Captain, and everyone just follows Vince out of the frickin' door.
Right. So there you go.
I will bring my microphone. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, we'll talk about tech stuff. At any rate, so that's going to be my pick of the week. By the way, if you want more stuff on Battle Scroll, more thoughts on Battle Scroll, then you can check that. Like, I've linked other people discussing Battle Scroll down in the comments. A lot of people did some nice thoughts about it. So there you go. But I am very excited to do a live show with a live audience, with audience interaction, of course. How we're going to do that, I don't know. Haven't figured that part out yet. But I've got a week to do it, so I'm sure we can get it all worked out.
Easy peasy.
It'll be piece o' cake. So when it all goes horribly wrong, don't blame me. Blame Tom. All right.
No, we're just going to have people like popping in on the side of the camera, just talking at the microphone. So
no, there'll be a camera facing the audience.
Well, no, there'll be the scrolling comment bar, like the chat bar that we have. Just people coming in on the side.
Very nice. All right. So with that, gentlemen, let's get to some hobby time. Doug, what have you been painting, buddy?
Lots of bone splitters. I am very excited for Tyler's event, Vault Wars, in May.
There you go.
And so,
speaking of events, yep.
Yeah, I'm headed there, and I have never actively gone to an event and tried to win a thing, like specifically to win. I always just go because I have an army and I enjoy playing, and it's a guaranteed 3 games.
Sure.
But this specific one, they have an award that is, it's called Underdog, which is that you win at least 2 games with an army that is just crap tier for the just simple ease of expression. Bone Splitters are the one that I'm going with, and I think it's according to the Honest Wargamer stats. Is that right? Sure. Like whatever they determine the weakest to be, so it could change.
Win rate, yeah.
Yeah, so like Nighthound's on there now, it could change, whatever. Yeah, so that's what that I've never, like I said, I've never headhunted a trophy before, and so that's exactly what I'm doing. And so yeah, it's going to be all orc butts until May.
Very nice. Thanks, Ziggy. Appreciate it. Have a good night, Ziggy. All right. I love it. Painting a lot of mostly naked orcs. You're on brand for the show.
Oh, yeah.
You're like partway there.
Yeah, whatever's bad, I'll take it.
Prime Hunters.
Your Prime Hunters are rolling out. Also, you're painting a bunch of naked dudes. That's also on brand for this show since we're doing Fyreslayers.
Yeah.
So
actually, yeah.
Synergy, Doug.
Unstoppable.
That's right. No, I'm excited.
I am.
I can't wait to see you 5-0 the event. That's what's going to happen.
Are you going, Vince?
No, I won't be at that one. I have a conflict, unfortunately.
Well, I am. So I will be there. Boom. I don't know what I'm going to take. I'm probably going to take Fyreslayers, ironically enough. But right now, I'm working on this mess.
Ghosts.
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 Yeah, I wrote my list, and then I didn't actually think about how much of it I was having to like paint new. And so I was like, yeah, this is definitely what I'm going to do. And then, recognizing I took Night Haunt to an event last month, and now I'm functionally painting an entirely different army. So that's happening. Yay! That's exactly right. So, yeah, I'll get it done.
Very nice. Well, I finished a project for my hobby time. I finished a project I can't reveal yet, but at latest, everybody will see it next week at Adepticon, if not before. I am beyond excited for this. But really, my main hobby stuff has been focusing up all my Golden Demon entries. So now that we're in the week to 10 days prior, that means it's time to pull every Golden Demon entry out, give it a complete once-over, clean up anything that doesn't look good, look at it with fresh eyes, and do some repainting. So I have been deep in the bowels of painting what I already painted. That's been my week. Which is not the most rewarding thing. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to ask how long in advance do you actually paint those things? Because I always think of it as like down to the wire. But if you're like having time to put it away, think about your life, reflect on yourself and come back to it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I started on one of the entries in May of 2019. Doug, is your answer. Because I was at the last Golden Demon in the UK. When they announced the US, I flew home and began assembling stuff that weekend.
That was 2 armies ago for me, man.
Pre-pandemic.
Now I'm looking. Exactly.
Yeah.
No.
So, and by the way, I saw some people who were complaining about my statement that OBR was like okay, and saying they deserve Prime Hunter. I'm not saying they don't. I'm fine with them as a Prime Hunter. I totally have no issue. I do agree that they could use some help. Wasn't trying to say that. I was just saying like why them and not FEC. That was really my point there. Because I think FEC release is bad.
I watched them almost win an event last month. Sure,
it could happen. Yeah, it's fine. They like again. Yes, they probably both be on that list, and it really doesn't speak well to Death right now, who's in a rough spot overall.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, we're not even on. You can't. We're not even worth killing.
We're not even worth killing. Yep. Okay. Anyway, so that's my hobby time. I got so much to do before AdeptCon, but we're knuckling down. That's been what it is. We're gonna get it all done. All right, gentlemen. Well, with that, I think it's time that we switch gears.
Yeah.
And we talk about dem Fyreslayers. Okay. So, Fyreslayers. By the way, I really like this piece of art. I think this was this is from a Warhammer community article, originally, which is where I pulled it from. But I really like this piece of art. I really like the look of them, not with the fiery mohawks, but with the like black hair and beard. I just think it looks really cool. So he also looks like he's in very deep contemplation of this Nurgle skull, which I enjoy. Sort of an alas poor Yorick thing.
Wouldn't it have been nice if there was something like this on the Fyreslayer cover?
Sure.
Instead of the exact same cover?
Yeah. But Tom, the binding on the side is red instead of a dark blue like it was for Soul Wars, so it's totally different.
He's got you on that. Dead to rights.
But you know what's not different? My collector's edition book.
Look,
well,
that is probably true.
You were the noob who bought it.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the you look at your books on the shelf by the spine, though, so you'll know which one's different. Like, does any psychopath out there, I want to know in the comments right now, I want to see it in chat, if somebody displays their Warhammer books on a bookshelf face out. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if they have them all face out, like on little standees, like just
like comic book displays, whatever.
Yeah, like a comic book display, right? But not overlapping.
No, but I'm going to now.
Right, not overlapping. I'm talking individual standees.
Like art.
Boom, boom.
They are pieces of art.
Right,
each one and every one.
Yes. So at any rate, that would be amazing. But yeah, everybody just you put books like you put books on a shelf with the spine.
Yes. And as Balls has said, I heard it, joked about as well on Twitter. It's not the same art. It's just that they all Fyreslayers look the same.
Exactly.
Okay. Boom boom. Fyreslayers 2022. Let's talk about this. We've got some people who do put the face out. You're crazy people. You have like 4 books. You have a lot of real estate, I guess. I don't know. Maybe you have a lot of bookcases. I got too many books. I couldn't face out anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Army books facing out behind their armies in a display.
That sounds good.
That's an interesting idea. Okay. I don't have room in my army display cases for that either. I got too many of those. All right.
Sell them.
You. Hush. It's not gonna happen.
Doug, you have no idea what his basement looks like. It is just like...
Well, I mean, he has some idea. He has some conceptual idea.
Yes.
You could literally see it behind me.
It's so bad. And that's only like a small portion.
Yeah, this isn't a green screen.
In a GW store.
Right, yeah. I've actually been broadcasting out of like a small shack. That same shack from earlier I mentioned in Upper Montana. All right.
Yes.
So, Fyreslayers 2022. Here's my general summary from reading the book and understanding, 1, I don't like this army. 2, I don't care about this army. And 3, this is not an interesting army to me. survey says it's not a very interesting army to most people, as it is consistently ranked as the lowest aesthetic and played army in the of all active factions.
And that hasn't changed. Nothing changed. Nothing about that changed with this release.
Sure. No. So, I mean, you'd have to put out new kits probably to move that needle. Mm-hmm. Okay, but here's my read of the thing. Tell me if the two of you agree. I think it's a solid mid-tier army book. It's got some options. Okay, like I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's broken or anything like that. I think it's pretty firmly in the middle. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, is not a bad thing. I'm not rating that as a negative. Let me be super clear on that. All right, mm-hmm. This is how like books should be releasing, and we go, yes, that is a solid mid-tier book. That is how books should be released.
It's like a Mall Tribes book.
Right, like, fine, great. Well, Mall Tribes has some design issues that this doesn't have, but I understand your meaning on power level. Okay.
We can talk about that.
My question, are the activation wars back? Maybe a little, kind of.
No.
The last 2 weeks, it's just interesting how much ASF we've seen mentioned over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, sure.
Now,
sure.
One of these books has a lot more of the last 2 week reviews than the other one does, but it does show up in both. It is still limited ultimately by its small range of troops and those troops not having different defined roles. That is to say, this army
if by small range of troops it's every non-hero unit in the army, then sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's, I mean, there's three non-heroes in the army. Yeah. I mean, effectively 4, I guess, the way they split one of the Warscrolls, but it's really 3.
It's 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They have the same keyword.
Which, by the way, does not need to be the death of an army. Ironjawz only has 3 units, and it's been consistently good and fun, and even perhaps sometimes too powerful, like maybe right now.
But it's based on the core design difference.
Right, yes, but it's
right.
But, like, those units have roles, right?
Yeah,
that actually stand up.
There's differentiation. Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It really relies on synergies to raise up the Warscrolls. Like, if you read most of the Warscrolls straight, you're just like, this army's very bad. Now, that's not true. In fact, there's a lot of synergy that can push some of these Warscrolls to do some really interesting things. Mm-hmm. But you have to actually see the whole sort of spider web here. It really does rely on different kinds of synergies. Happily,
like
not
30,
all of those.
36 attack, rend, like 3 Magmadroths.
Yep.
Sure.
That's
yeah. No, that's, yeah, absolutely. It is still a melee-focused army that has overall mobility challenges. That's not changing. I do think the Magmadroths have more options and power now. They're a more interesting part of the list. I think that they did a nice job with them overall. There is like kind of one problem I have with that scroll we'll talk about when we get to them. But on the whole, better. Magmadroth, better. So thumbs up, good. And it's really important for you to know your runes and know how and when to activate them and the different rune, how do I want to say this? Like the different tech that you're gonna have at your disposal to mess with the runes. Like
victory will be secured with this army based on how well you layer once per game abilities. Period.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. I would agree.
Okay. Anything I missed there, gentlemen? Is that a fairly decent summary from my read?
Yeah, I would say so. For me, I would just say that if you already liked Fyreslayers, it's just that only more so. Like all it did was just kind of explore more options for the things that already existed, but fundamentally, it's not like a night and day. I mean, Hearthstone giving out 1 rend was a bigger change, I feel like, for Beasts of Chaos than this entire battle tome was for Fyreslayers, because they don't function differently. But they, if you already like them, there's so much in here that you'll love. That's that.
I think I think like if you were already a buyer, this is not a bad day for you.
No.
Okay.
And actually,
you did not get a Slanesh book here. Let's just lay that out right at the top.
Yep.
Not at all.
Right. No, I agree with that. And there's actually there's some interesting flexibility that's never been introduced to the book. With the bringing in dwarven allies is a real thing, and you can share your runes, which is a big deal. It just is. Yeah, like Go Trek with that extra move, and now doing mortals on wounds and to hit and to wound on a round. Kind of a big deal.
Yep.
I very much agree. Like that's I know exactly what you're talking about, and that thing stood out to me on first read. I was like, oh, hello there. That was a General Kenobi moment for sure. Okay. So, so overall, good. Honestly, kind of, I think you said it really well, Doug, when you said it's kind of more of the thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah. Which is when an army book wasn't horribly off of what it felt like it should be. That is to say, like, this army feels like it should be this. That's kind of how I'd want to see the army books come out. I don't need them to be like a complete, hey, we got nuts and totally rewrote everything from the ground up, and now Fyreslayers are an all shooting, low defense, glass cannon army.
It's
I'd
not
be like, wait, what?
It's not like Nurgle's rewrite, right? Like with a new core mechanic and a new base concept and how you engage. That's not what this is. This is Fyreslayers being Fyreslayers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, let's get into the specifics. Let's talk. Let's start with the Path to Glory. That's right. You didn't think we'd talk about Path to Glory, but we did, and that's because Doug is here. And Doug,
we outsourced it.
Because we outsourced it. I did not read this section. I'm not going to lie. So Doug, tell us why the Path to Glory section of Fyreslayers is so awesome, if you're a Path to Glory fan.
Okay, so if you like casual games and storytelling with your friends, it's the single best one because all the other Path to Glory options really just have you either doing management of resources, so like the bones or the bones for Ossiarch Bone Reapers or that kind of thing. Whereas this, there is that element, but it puts on a level of decision making that lets you as a player feel like you have to approve and turn down contracts for your magma hold to take, which is sort of like a meta narrative thing that I really think is terrific. Essentially, it's kind of scattered around a little bit, but you're going to generate a person who's trying to hire you. So they have a whole convoluted D6 chart here where you could generate.
It's a crazy table. I did see the table. I was like, wow, okay.
But you generate a name and a title of someone who's hiring your magma hold. But what's cool, and the thing that I'm glad they didn't shy away from, is that chaos is all over this. You can get hired by a chaos faction, or just like ogres can come in and hire you. And then you're also given a quarry, which is basically it just picks a grand alliance that you have to play against. And so you are hired by one faction to attack another type of grand alliance. And then you accrue gold and gold through doing so, which you can then spend on benefits pre-game. There's a way to give them all bravery 10, which sounds rad. Basically hold a Guzzfest. Everybody gets so drunk that the next day they're super brave. You can delve beneath the mountain, which just means you get better territories, which is only a very Path to Glory specific thing. And it's just cool because as you're playing games, you're building this story. You can keep working for the same paymaster. You can find a new one. And layered on top of this resource management of money and gold is a reputation system. So if you keep working for the bad guys, you get lots of money, but terrible reputation, and that has consequences. So I guess what I'm saying is it's decision making that reflects what makes them coolest from the narrative, and that is the moral gray of a mercenary. And you're constantly having to I need that money, but I can't take the hit on my reputation because it locks you out of certain things. And conversely, you'll do stuff for reputation. So in terms of just having an engaging type of format for a personal one-player campaign, it's terrific.
Very nice. I thought this was I did give this a quick glance. And I just thought it was I thought the table was neat. I saw the whole thing of generating who's trying to hire you and all this. I was like, wow, this seems a lot more in depth than what I, looked at. The other ones. Like, they really leaned into the narrative of this army.
Yes, more of this in Path to Glory.
Because fundamentally, if you look at something like Stormcast is do the core book, and then here's a few other options.
Sure.
And their only unique thing is that your heroes don't have to die; they just come back glitched, which is like that's totally different than saying you're actively pursuing contracts, fulfilling them, and there's reward mechanics for
forging new artifacts for yourself. You buy yourself because you are makers. Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's kind of, I thought it was a really cool design space that they hadn't, it just seems different than like the Deepkin one or Bone Reaper or something like that.
Yeah, no, it's great. And it speaks to the what I like about this conceptually is that it shows that this army is narratively rich and interesting.
Yep.
Right.
Yes.
And unfortunately, just because the nature of the aesthetics of the models doesn't live up to kind of what it could be in getting people involved.
Like, look at the art on that.
I know, it's such a good piece of art.
Which one?
The piece on the Path to Glory page is on the screen right now.
Like, he doesn't look like a naked baby there.
He's on page 1 of the Path to Glory section. He's kind of the
gotcha.
Guy over in the corner there. Like, he just looks regal as.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if it wasn't loincloths and more like meaty, bojangly, like gold hanging from belts and doodads and geometric stuff, I don't know.
Yep.
Less loincloths.
Probably just like pants and shoes, maybe. That would probably help too. That'd go away.
I say less loincloths too, but just don't replace it with anything. Just be out there.
Be out and proud.
Exactly.
Okay. They call that the beard bump in the dwarven community. So, these
are not the X's. The X's my peers.
So super cool. Now let's pivot here. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate you sharing the Path to Glory excitement with everybody.
Thank you for humoring me.
Oh, not at all. No, I was actually excited that you were excited about it because it's something I never talk about, and I don't do it for any other reason than I'm just not interested enough to really understand the whole ecosystem.
Go ahead. Coach nails it when he says, like, what if they were more mercenary like Dogs of War? Or even like the Giants, right? Like, if we had true mercenary Fyreslayers.
Yeah.
That could show up in any army. Like, remember when we did that back an edition ago?
Yeah, wasn't that the General's Handbook or whatever when they had that?
Yeah, there's a GHB that had those rules, I
would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
All right.
Missed an opportunity.
It is a shame. All right. Let's talk allegiance abilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Allegiance abilities for the Fyreslayers. Some of this is going to be somewhat familiar, some of this not, as we go through kind of the general lay of this. Some things have same names and have kind of like moved around. Like they use the same name, but it's now in a different place, right?
Yep.
So
GW double like speak.
Yeah. Yes. Like we really like that name we thought of, but now it has different rules. Okay. So, of course, there are lodges, sub-factions. That's fine. We'll, of course, break into those in a little while.
Yep.
They have a new generic command ability called Fierce Counterattack. You can use this command ability at the start of the enemy combat phase. The unit that receives this command must be an Auric Hearthguard Berserkers, or Volkite Berserkers unit, so your non-hero units, effectively.
Yep.
That is within 3 inches of an enemy unit that made a charge move in the same turn.
Yep.
And not within 3 inches of enemy units that have not made a charge move in the same turn. Cool. The strike first effect applies to that unit until the end of that phase. A unit cannot receive this command more than once per battle. So you can, as part of the... So basically, it's the whole idea is like they get charged, but they fight first.
It's a melee unleash hell.
Yep, it's a melee unleash hell. That's now, but there are some notable differences there.
Yes.
Okay. One, this is happening during the during the combat phase. Apologize.
Right. So you missed the other command abilities.
So you don't get all out attack or all out defense, right? It's working against those.
Yep.
2, you can be roared out of this.
Yep.
Right? Because the roar can shut off your ability to drop command abilities on the unit in the combat phase. Okay.
Yep.
And 3, it's only the enemy charge phase, which I think people will sometimes screw up if you don't really pay attention to that, right? It's you taking the charge. It's exactly what you said.
Right.
If you form it in your head like a melee unleash hell, then the timing becomes easier to sort of contemplate. It's not them going in and hitting first, it's them getting charged and yet striking first because they're sort of ready and tough. Okay. But it's cool. It's a cool ability. It's probably like a good implementation of ASF because it actually is costed in an opportunity cost fashion against these other high value things.
And it's only once a game.
And it's only once a game per unit. Yeah.
Well, and I like the fact that it happens in the combat phase. So like your opponent does all their charges and you, with that information, can then assess where it's necessary. It's not like you have to call it at the top of the charge phase of your opponent or anything like that. It's you get a chance to see if it's going to be meaningful and then just ignore it if it's not.
Yep. Okay.
The one thing that
go ahead, please.
Can I jump?
Yeah.
The one thing that jumped out at me that like it didn't land until later, and this talks about that like layering of abilities conversation. You're gonna find out that I'm like super negative on Auric Hearthguard, like the shooters. Like I'm really, really negative. But we'll get there. But what's fascinating to me is that it's only like as I considered playstyle, like how units are interacting with other units on the battlefield. It dawned on me that like there's a really interesting play for Auric units that get charged.
Okay.
So like let's imagine a world where you come into my 10 Auric Hearthguard.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna unleash hell.
Sure.
For 21 shots and 10 hand axes. Now I'm gonna hit for shit because the hit is terrible on that unit. So it's going to all the 4s are going to go to 5s. But again, you're going to throw out a bunch of attacks.
Yep.
With Ren, a lot of it with Ren.
There's damage there. Yep.
There's damage. And then the 10 dudes now that have Rend on 3s and 3s, neg 1/1, can strike first as well.
Yep.
So you can double unleash hell, first unleash in shooting, then unleash in melee, back-to-back phases. So you'll basically like super double activate if you drop the command points with that unit before the enemy can actually start grinding through them.
Yeah, depending on what charges them, they could really deplete that unit.
Right. I mean, they could put some serious hurt on a unit that comes into them. Like you need to come into them with heat in order to actually to pick up that unit.
Yep.
Which I like because the idea of doing all of that, letting even just a 10-man unit swing above their weight class, it's a gotcha. I mean, not a gotcha as in you shouldn't tell your opponent about it, but it's like if people don't see that in action, it's easy to not think about as being dangerous. But 10 of those dudes will mess you up if you let them do all of that.
Right. Like,
I love it.
Functionally shoot and then also melee. Yeah, it's interesting. I still don't think they're worth their points, but it's interesting.
Sure.
Cool.
All right. The other big one here is Grimwrath Oaths.
Yes.
So at the start of the first battle round, which is an interesting timing, it's actually a really that's a great timing that you're making that you're doing this.
I love this ability so much.
Yeah,
it's the best.
Like this book was
winners.
like, hey, did you like Grimwrath Berserkers? Do you want to see them played? Well, we're going to give you some reasons. Why don't you just trust us on this?
Exactly.
Okay? Why don't you tuck right in?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can have 6.
It's a good day if you wanted to put some Grimwraths on the table, which is cool. I like that. I like for going back to Warhammer Fantasy. Like I loved the different levels of Slayer. Right, you had like the more and more elite Slayers that had more and more elite special abilities, and this kind of lets you get back at that same theme, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I just as an aside, like,
I
have not made a Fyreslayer list that does not have at least one Grimwrath in it.
I completely believe that. I think you would now. You absolutely would include one because they're actually good.
Right.
Like
right.
Yeah, they're good. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Like there were moments when in list building when I was like, 160 points for one of these stupid units, like 5 of these guys or 10 of the guy deck chair sitters, or I could give up this invocation and get 2 more Grimwrath.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll take 2 more Grimwrath.
Yep,
Sure.
absolutely.
So to baseline it, just for we'll get to them eventually, but Grimwraths are 105 points, right? Just so we all understand what we're dealing with.
And they're not leaders, so they don't count against your leader slot.
And still
so
not a leader. Yes.
But they're heroes, so you can throw as many of them in as you want.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. So at the start of the first battle round, which is a great time to pick this, you can pick one of the following oaths for each friendly Grimwrath Berserker to swear. The rule for that oath applies to that until the end of the battle. If your army includes more than one Grimwrath Berserker, you can't pick the same oath more than once. So, okay, they all have to swear their own oaths. Tom, there's a lot of oaths here. I'm not going to read all these, right? Because there's 6 different oaths.
Yep.
Instead,
I know which one you like the best. I also know which one I like the best.
That's fine. I'll wait. I want each of you to tell me which one you like. So, Tom, what's your Grimwrath oath pick?
Proving Grimnir's might to our allies. Like I am in on that so hard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I will prove Grimnir's might to our allies. Add 1 to hit rolls and wound rolls for attacks made by this unit if it is within 12 inches of any friendly allied units. Okay.
Yep.
I love knowing that I'm going to be on 2s and 2s, -2 rend, 2 damage each, double piling in. Like that sounds hot to me.
Mm-hmm.
And with a way to get double your attacks.
Yeah, and able to double my attacks once a game. Yes, please.
Yep. All of it. I want to go to there.
Yeah, I want to go to that place, please. And then, not only that, and because you can like trigger a heroic action like on that turn that you double attack, so you can jump to -4 rend. So your 2s and 2, 4 attack or 8 attacks, double piling in 2s and 2s, -4 rend, 2 damage each.
It's a lot of rend.
That is a lot of rend. For 105 points, yes, please. Yep. So I mean, like, I love that one because the reality is that I almost never. I don't think I've built I built maybe 1 or 2, but almost all of my lists, 90% of my lists have a gun hauler in them. At least one gun hauler.
Okay.
Because this army needs mobility, right? Like it has to have mobility, and gun haulers are the kings of being wherever you need when you need them.
Sure.
And so, like, the gun hauler now is 155 points of hot sex, of like 10 wounds, teleport wherever, do damage, and oh, by the way, it gives +1/+1 to your Grimwrath now.
Sure.
So I like having, and like it's not tied to one model. So if I have like 2 gun haulers, like I can keep one within range for him fighting, and then jump the other one around, and then late game if I need to move him across table, I can do that. So I mean, it's not the best of the. To be clear, it's not the best of the oaths, but it's the one that I like the most.
Fair enough. Yeah. Doug, what's your pick for oath?
So I will pick a different one, but that was actually my hot take as well. Mainly because I want Gotrek is an ally. So basically what I want to do is have Gotrek walk up front and kind of put that out there for everyone to look at. And then right behind him is his little mini-me Grimwrath Berserker who's like, I don't know what the hell's going on, but I know wherever this guy goes, stuff dies. I'm going to follow him. And so basically you just use...
You're like, hit Gotrek, and they're like, yeah, I'll attack Gotrek. That's a good idea. And you're like,
yes. And then the second punch comes from the Grimwrath with double the attacks.
That's awesome.
For me, my second one, where was it at? What's it called? So I have a huge interest in like personal retinues for my heroes because it's because I am a narrative nerd. I mean, that's just what I am. And the idea of I will guard them with my life instead of picking one Hearthguard or Hearthguard Berserker unit on the battlefield to be a retinue of a father or rune son, you can pick the Grimwrath Berserker. So it's just like you lock him to a hero, and then it's just him fist bumping your rune father as he's got his grand axe, and I just like it.
No, nice. Yeah, I'm a fan of I will let nothing stand in my way, which is run and
I knew it.
charge and
I knew it.
and reroll run and charge rolls. Like,
Just so sexy on these guys. Little missile.
yeah, like I mean, mobility is
it
the
means-
name of the game. You know me,
Yep.
and this is anything that's if an ability says you can run and charge, you know where Vince is living. That's where it's at.
Well, none of that. Like, it doubles his movement functionally.
Mhm.
Like, let's be very clear. He goes from 4 to like 7.5 average with that rerollable run, and rerolling charges. Like,
Yep.
not only
Huge
has
deal.
that never been bad, but now it's really interesting because this army, like, there's a number of instances where I'm like, well, instead of deep striking a unit of like 10 or 20 guys, like, I could see a world where I deep strike a Hearthguard Berserker that has rerollable charges.
You mean a Grimwrath Berserker?
Or that's what I meant, like a
Yeah,
Grimwrath
I know.
Berserker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I pair him with the Rune Smiter.
Yep.
So that I can put him, like, because placing 2 models on 32 mil bases, good luck zoning me.
Yeah, it's so easy to accidentally slip those in somewhere, right, where somebody just didn't zone out properly, or just can't physically
Or
stop it.
can't.
It's often
Right.
easy to stop a whole unit, but not
And-
2 tiny 32 mil bases.
Now you have an angry missile that's only 105 points that will kill things it gets into.
Oh yes,
Period.
big things.
Yes.
All right, good stuff. Let's talk about a couple. There's these continue. By the way, we're not done with allegiance abilities yet.
Yep.
We kept our Urgold runes, of course. Now some of these effects have changed, but they're still the same basic concept. At the start of your hero phase, you can activate one of the following 6 types of rune. You state which rune will be activated. You make an activation roll on a 1 through 5. You get the normal effect. On a 6, you get the enhanced effect. Before we talk about those, I want to just quickly jump down to Blaze of Fury because it's super, like, it's very connected to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Fyreslayers have a new heroic action. So, and both of these, by the way, are at the start of your hero phase, which is relevant because you can choose to activate the rune, make the roll, and see if you get the enhanced effect. And then if you don't, then use the heroic action. So anyways, the timing on these does work in a combo-ish good way.
Advantageous.
Yes. So at the start of your hero phase, you can carry out this heroic action with a friendly Fyreslayers hero instead of any other heroic action you would carry out. So you don't get more. It just replaces, as always. But you pick one friendly Fyreslayers hero until the end of your turn. The enhanced effect of the Urgold rune that is activated in this hero phase applies to that hero regardless of the activation roll. You cannot carry out this heroic action with the same hero more than once in the same battle. Hence, to Tom's point of suddenly jumping your Grimwrath Berserker from Ren 2 to Ren 4, because you can use the Rune of Awakened Steel, which I think is the strongest rune on this list. but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right.
Increase Ren 2, yes, please.
Yeah, like the basic effect is everybody's melee weapons rend goes up by 1. The enhanced effect is everybody's melee weapon rend goes up by another 1 for 2 total.
Yep.
So all of a sudden that hero's got +2 rend, which is real potent. And by the way, we're talking about it in the light of the Grimwrath, but of course, keep in mind that capability on that struck rune turn is going to apply to any one hero you might want to be, kicking teeth with, right?
Right.
Question. Just because I forgot to read the mount rules, would this affect the Magmadroth attacks too?
Yes.
It's keyword.
That was
It's
my understanding, yeah.
Because the runes affect the Magmadroths.
The whole Warscroll
And-
has that keyword. Okay,
Yes.
cool. Just wanted to
And,
double check.
Warscroll has that keyword. So as written, yes, that would increase the rend of the Magmadroth attacks, hence the 36 attacks on the Magfather, which has been called the Murder Droth by it was trademarked by Max.
There you go.
There you go. So yeah, I mean that's that you can turn many heroes into very scary things with that kind of an effect. But of course there's more than that, right? What other runes, we'll go with the same order, Tom. What other runes, are you keeping in mind here? Because it's not like that's the only good one. There are other good runes in this list. What's your other hot pick runes?
Yeah, so Rune of Fury, obviously, because it frees up command points.
Yep.
Because the default one is +1 to hit on melee attacks.
Right.
And so if you know that you're going to be receiving a charge that turn, we talked about how like the one counter-strike ability removes the opportunity cost of the +1 to hit. Like are being able to do all-out assault. This fixes that, right? Because it gives them that bonus on that counter-strike. And then like rolling the enhanced effect, which you can't guarantee, to +1 attacks is just hot. Like it's just really good.
Yep.
And then of course the other one in my book that really rises to the top is the rune.
Doug.
Sorry, yeah, Doug. I'm sorry, Doug. Go. What was your?
Oh no, you're good. I assume you were going to say Relentless Zeal.
I was. Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to jump the line.
No, you're good. You're good. Actually, the one I was going to say was Searing Heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of the thing that Tom was explaining, where you can do the Overwatch and then melee, and so it's if the unmodified wound roll for an attack made by a Fyreslayer unit of 6, it causes a mortal wound in addition to any damage. So like I like that one because all those attacks, again, it's just dice, but if you throw enough dice at a problem, all of a sudden this 10-man unit of Volkites can swing above their weight class.
Oh yeah.
So I like that one. I mean, it requires, it's situational. Like if you're about to take a punch, it's not a bad idea just to throw it on to do that.
Yep. I think the interesting thing about the Rune of Searing Heat, I too like the Rune of Searing Heat. So there's a couple things about the Rune of Searing Heat that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The Rune of Searing Heat is not keyed to melee attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
As many things in this table are.
Yes.
Correct.
So you're like throwing axes.
Your shooters. Your throwing axes is the key here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Overwatch, and then you get to actually strike first in combat. All of that. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So like,
I mean, you're throwing 40 attacks off of 10 dudes, 10 orcs.
Yeah, like you're in your previous situation, you construed right between their shots and then the axes and then their attacks. Yep. It's 40 attacks where all of them are now causing a mortal and a wound of 6, basically, right? 41, I guess, with the champ shot.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So like that can add up. It's also interesting because I think about there's a way to get these runes onto allies.
Yeah.
And there are dwarf allies that have guns.
Yeah.
That would now benefit from this as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that was an interesting thing that occurred to me.
I have a list with 40 Arcanauts in there.
Yeah, that's yep.
Because one thing where you're going to find is that this army has a lot of priests, and where there are priests, there is curse, and so suddenly giving Arcanauts who have 40 pistol shots, or not 40, like 30, some ridiculous number, right?
They have a big number of pistol shots, yes.
A big number of pistol shots. Suddenly giving them mortaling on 6s to hit and wound. One from Curse, and then the other from this Rune of Searing Heat. Suddenly that's enticing.
I'm going to say Pyrocopter meta.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a very funny one, shooting gyrocopters in there and all like into a horde unit. If we get a horde meta, yeah, Bruno in the chat said cough Iron Drakes cough, and I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
That's not a bad pick in general when you could be improving also their Ren just like the normal trick. So yeah. So the point is that like the Rune of Searing Heat's really interesting actually in the different ways it can affect or work with allies if you go that route where your allies can benefit from this stuff. And then the last one is that I really like is the Rune of Relentless Zeal, just because it does add to their move characteristic, +2 to run, and then the enhanced effect of +2 to charge. We mentioned already being able to give that to Gotrek to get him going along and chugging, which is very scary with the allies. But I mean, just the army's main challenge is mobility. This obviously is a big answer to that. This one's more or less the same. It's always been.
It's a great turn one trigger.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. And honestly, like to the point of the, I just want to slip this in here. I'll be quick with the Urgold runes. The reason I like it is because I like when it's my turn coming up with a plan and then you're locked in. Like you have to execute that plan. Yeah. And it's one of the things I love about the game Conquest. I'm not sure if anyone here has played it, but like you come up with all your order of activations at the top of the turn, and then it's just a matter of when you activate units playing it out. And this is the exact same way of like I just need to move. That's all it is. You just pick the
Right.
rune for that.
Right.
I just need to attack. You pick a rune that's good at that.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I do love that we still have the Rune of Farsight. We just can't let it go. We just can't let these things go.
Here's the deal. If you have most of your army within fighting range,
Yeah.
Sure.
that's like 60 to 100 attacks that just move to 3s and 3s.
Sure.
Yep.
On the enhanced strike, yeah.
Yeah, on the enhanced strike. Yeah, of course. But I mean, that's pretty good.
Sure.
Like
Sure
it's going to do damage, and that's the key. It's going to get something through.
There is some damage that will likely result from that. Yes.
Right.
Something might happen.
I do not disagree with this
because
logic.
because you need to always ignore those axes. Like just simply ignore the axes. Except when you actually when you hit a saturation point of everybody's in combat, then suddenly you're in a different world with those axes.
Sure. I just think it's funny that the thing that actually makes the axes, like the Rune of Searing Heat, makes the axes scarier than the Rune of Farsight, the one that specifically bonuses the axes. So that's kind of funny. All right. Okay, let's talk command traits. I'm just gonna blow through the Auric Runefather and Runesons real quick here, and then we'll kind of go through from there.
Those are the winners, all of them.
Yeah, yes.
All of them are good. I like them all.
Just pure magma.
I think all of these somehow that's true. I was trying to find some way to say that's not true, but this is so unusual to me, my body doesn't know how to react to it.
Yeah.
What's this feeling inside?
This feeling of satisfaction. They wrote 4 command traits, and I could see a world where you'd want to use all of them. It's so weird. I'm not used to this. All right. So, Fury of the Fyreslayers, add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Fyreslayer units wholly within 18. Bonuses to charge are amazing, and that is a very generous bubble, especially on a guy who can be on a monster chariot base.
Well, not only that, go ahead.
Good. No, I was just going to say, remember, you also have the Blaze of Fury ability with Relentless Zeal, which can give you +2 and 2 to your charge. So, all those things, they do rack up on a hero. So, that's all I was going to say. I'm sorry, Dom.
No, I was just going to say that your Volkites, which are half of your scrolls, right?
Of your non-hero scrolls, yes.
Non-hero scrolls are, and there are reasons to take both sets of Volkites now.
Yeah.
Are natively +1 to charge. So this moves them to +2. And there is a battalion that people forget about called Vanguard that gives you a rerollable charge once a game without issuing the command or receiving the command. And so you could feasibly drop a block of 20 Volkites in Vostarg. And you're not going to get them all into combat, realistically. But they'd be on a 7 rerollable.
Sure. Which is a good number, as anyone who's played Annihilators knows.
Yes, that's a good number. And they're at 3 attacks a model, possibly 4 if a Runefather is near.
Yep.
And so suddenly, and you're on 2s and 2s. That's you're gonna do work when you make even if you do 10 of those, you're gonna come in with 30 to 40 attacks on 2s and 2s.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
Good. Bonus to charge, good synergy with everything else you mentioned. Blood of the Berserker, once per battle in the combat phase, after this general is fought for the first time, you can say they will go berserk. If you do so, this general can fight for a second time in that phase. The strike last effect applies to this general when they fight for the second time. Only unfortunate part of that I don't like, I wish it just let them, the next time you get to make an activation choice is when that should happen, not strike last. I don't know why we put that on there. But nonetheless, as mentioned, there is a potential to make the Murder Droth, and this can be a part of it if you've got a dude running in there on redonk rend / damage going wild, like he'll probably live against most units because he's probably killed most of the unit he's fighting. Just make sure he's within 3 inches of somebody, or I should say 4 to 5 inches of somebody. I guess,
I mean, like he'll lift a
time.
giant. Like let's be like when he pops, he'll lift a giant.
Sure.
Yep.
So
that's pretty
generally fighting twice on super killy heroes, good. Again, this isn't like this isn't super complicated math, right?
That's why I love it.
Yeah. The murder machine fighting more is good because he does more of what he's good at. Spirit of the Grimnir. If this general's on the battlefield, when you make an activation roll for the purposes of Urgold runes, the enhanced effect applies on a 5+ instead of a 6. That's actually quite a big statistical shift in your chance to get the enhanced effect.
Yeah, this is my default
the whole game.
Like if I start with this command trait and then I'll migrate to one of the other ones if my army build is appropriate.
Yeah, sure. It's just
but this is where I start. Yeah,
because the enhanced effects are so strong on a lot of those runes. Other than the Rune of Searing Heat, which is funny. It actually isn't. I don't ever care if I generally get the enhanced effect. Like, it's okay at best. But for a lot of them, it's really strong.
It's 3 mortals.
Sure. It's not nothing. I'm just saying, like, if I don't get to 5/6, I'm like, okay, whatever. Right. But getting +2 to charge, getting +1 attack, right? Like,
one more rend.
Yeah, getting one more rend. Like, these are big bonuses for your army to suddenly be under the effect of, right?
Yep.
So literally doubling the percentage chance that happens every round. It's a big deal. And then finally, leader of the Duar Drazal.
Yep.
Okay. Leader of all the different dwarves. If this general is on the battlefield, Duardan allied units are treated as if they have the Fyreslayers keyword for the purposes of Urgold runes battle traits.
Literally the only articulation for hospitality to your neighbor in all of Warhammerdom. But yes.
So yeah, like, which means if that general is still alive, and you have those aforementioned KO units or Iron Drakes or whatever, and you you strike the appropriate rune, it can apply to them, or whatever. Whatever your allied dwarves happens to be. Gotrek, Hammerers, whatever. I don't care. Something.
In general, you want melee power on your allies.
Yeah. Gyrocopters.
Sweet gyrocopters. Getting in there, getting rend on them copter blades. Plap, plap.
I'm on a respected competitive play platform, so I'm just going to say random crap, and I'm sure someone will believe me.
That seems right to me. I can't wait till somebody 5-0s an event with gyrocopters in the list, and you're going to be like, called it.
I thought Doug was just an idiot. He's like an idiot, like savant. He figured it out.
All right, so yeah, all 4 are good. It's a weird feeling, but here we are. Tom, do any of the Fyreslayers priest ones tempt you away from the glory that is the inheritance of Grimnir?
I have one.
Okay.
You said no?
He said no.
I mean,
okay. So there's one called Avatar of Volcatrix. Basically, when you come,
pick, Doug, it's so you.
Shut up. Yeah, it's the best. What are you talking about? So basically, your general is a priest, and so when he dies, it immediately spawns an endless spell of the
Molten Fernoth.
Yeah, Molten Fernoth. And so then he immediately acts. And if you don't have him in your army, like you didn't pay for him, you get him for free, and all of the Brune Priests now know the chant to bring him onto the table, and he immediately activates. Also, if you already had him on the table, meaning you don't get to spawn a second one, wherever the existing one is, it also gets to activate. So like it gets to move its 2d6 and do the mortal wounds thing. I love it ever since like Gauge Spawn from Beasts of Chaos.
Sure.
Like when a hero dies, you get a spawn. This is like the same thing, and it's just the best consolation prize. It's like rewarding me for being stupid and charging the priest straight into combat. And
this is the piece of candy like reward, right? Like it's the bonus nachos. Yes, absolutely.
The Weird Al Dare to Be Stupid kind of a thing. I'm here for it.
The only like for me, it's the only thing that I thought about
The
was
Master
Master
Priest.
Priest. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
that's
being
a
able
great
to
one.
strike the rune of rending twice in a game, I was like, yep, that's what that's doing. That's what that rune says. That ability says get your rend rune twice. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm 2/5 of a Beast of Chaos army. Here we go.
I agree with Tom that like if you're looking to like bring teeth, everything in the Rune Father and Rune Son is perfect. There are some corner cases if you want to build a particular list around priests, but
Well, the challenge, like, so, like, I would invite us to think kind of meta consider, like, how these units are functioning. So you have 2 units to pick from as your general, right?
Sure.
Mhm.
One is the Rune Master.
Okay.
The other is the Rune Smiter. Unless you're running a Mag Smiter, like a Smiter on Magmadroth.
Mhm.
Both of those units have very specific like functions and places
Sure.
to be. With
Yep.
the Rune Smiter being your deep striker, so you're often like he is a throwaway piece. If you put him like because you're always going to be deep striking, he is there only to get another unit somewhere.
Yeah.
So like him, like he's not on the battlefield. Like you can't until you deep strike him, you cannot
Yeah, you
double
can't
strike
use this
that
ability,
rune.
yes, because he has to be on the battlefield. Yeah.
Right. And then on top of that, like he's likely to die because he's probably going to be in a place that you deep struck a unit. The Rune Master, is the other like likely one. He's the one that you look at and you're like, yeah, I could see taking him and being all like having him be a general, right?
Mhm.
But the problem that you run into with the Rune Master is that one of his abilities specifically only triggers when he is near the general. When he
Sure.
is near another model that is the general.
Yeah. I gotcha.
So in order to actually like utilize his ability, right? You have to well, I don't know. Sorry, it's within any 3 inch of any friendly rune rune. If your general is within, yeah. So maybe it does trigger for yourself that you generate.
Let's put a pin in it, and we'll get to it when we get to it.
I don't know. Anyways, yeah,
That's fine. Let's talk artifacts.
Cool.
Okay. So, Doug, I'm hitting you up first on this one.
Okay.
This is a page with a lot of different artifacts. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
They are just to set the table for everyone. They are divided between the Runefather and Runesons, the Fyreslayers priests, and then Fyreslayers heroes just in general. So they could also be given to the like Grimwrath people, so
Right.
our Berserker fellows. So our Berserker friends can only select from the bottom 3, but from any of these, because I don't think these are as strong all throughout, but there are some really fun ones in here.
Really? They have some of the most they have some of the fewest artifact lists in the game, and there's very few misses here.
Yeah. I would agree. There's a lot of them that I love.
That's fine. Okay, we can get
To the
there.
point where
That's
I'm
fine.
thinking about painting mine as Greyfear just to get 2 more of them. Like, yes!
Yeah. Most of my armies have been Greyfeared.
Yeah.
I agree that this is better. I'm just saying like these aren't all winners.
No.
Of course
But we
not.
can-
But let's count how many out of the 10 are.
Okay, yeah. What do we like? Doug, hit me first. Give me like 2 picks of what you like.
Okay. First one is for Relics of the Feared. So this is one that Grimwrath Berserkers can do. Once per draught of the mag malt ale. There we go.
I'm so glad we went here first. It's
Yes.
This is yes.
Yes, it's the elephant in the room.
Ah.
Once per battle at the start of the combat phase, you can say this bearer will drink their mag malt ale. If you do so, double the attacks characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons until the end of the phase, which is important. Real important.
Yep.
Throw it on a Grimwrath Berserker. He can attack twice within the same phase, whether he dies or not. And or a murder Magmadroth Mega Daddy.
Yes.
It's the best.
And you make a lot of attacks. Yes. Now, obviously, this one will not double the attacks of the mount, but it would double
Mount,
his.
but it doesn't matter. Like the father will be at 5 base attacks doubled.
Yep.
Totally. I'm just laying it out there. That is in no way a strike against this item. I think
And
this
then
item's
he
an
will
absolute
double
winner.
pile in
Yes.
with Blood of the Berserker.
Yeah. Absolute winner. What else you got, Doug?
The other one I really it's not sexy, but the volatile brazier, it just lets you reroll chanting rolls for the bearer.
And do what?
Sorry, when the bearer attempts to summon an invocation, you can reroll chanting rolls for the bearer, and the range of the prayer is doubled. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit, Doug.
So, I mean, is there a specific thing that you're seeing? Because for me, my thing is like the wall. Like I'm going to throw that little wall down way up in their nose. So hopefully
36 inches
Yep.
of impassable.
And then, I mean, I do like the Magmoth or whatever he is, the Infernoth. Like even just increasing the range on that guy is just nasty. All of it's nasty.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Molten Infernoth normally has a range of 12, so being able to
Yeah.
like to where he's set up, his range is beyond that.
Yep.
But that extends it out to the way he works. It's going to just make it like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah,
go
24 and moving 8. Right?
And you can just chuck him like a yo-yo. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, because he can just suddenly be anywhere. So yes.
Yeah, and so like he will hit the pockets. Like the key is what the volatile what the brazier allows you to do is to drop him turn 1 into their line, because normally he would not be able to get in turn 1.
Yep.
And so that allows, like, because you're going to put this on your Rune Master, who's going to be in your backfield with your or like midfield with your Forge, right, hiding behind it, and he's going to drop their Infernoth like into the line, which is just like hot. Now he can also drop the wall 36 inches, and it's impassable, and you're going to set it up like farther than 1 inch away from other terrain, and so you can actually create choke points.
Yep.
And like make units not be able to move at all.
Yep.
Like things just stop moving, and I don't think that giants can step over it.
They can. They can move over endless spells and prayers.
Does it specifically call out invocations on their war scroll?
Yes.
Okay, and even if they're impassable.
Wait. So the runic firewall has a rule. It says nothing can go across it unless it has the Magmadroth keyword.
Right.
I mean,
so like that rule trumps giants.
Like, or can fly. I don't know. It's worth an FAQ question. Like a pretty casual reading of the thing would say you can walk over top of it. Okay, like the intention of Longshanks here is clear, and it says they can walk over invocations. So I don't know, man. Feel free to FAQ. I wouldn't bank on that strat. You don't need it against giants.
Oh no. I mean, don't bank on it. Yeah.
But again, against like 32 mil bases, you can pull them. You can pull them out of combat. Like you can if there's terrain, depending on how it's set up, you can make it so 32 mil bases can't pass through an area and have to run like an additional like 20 inches.
No, because it's only an inch. You're absolutely right. Anybody who's bigger than a 25 mil base and can't fly, you can just lock them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so you could just choose people to not get to play, and there's like no getting rid of it. There's no unbinding the invocation.
Right.
That wall is there until they burn the ward save, which you're not going to do if you've chucked it into their line.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's terrifying. Like to me it is so like it is a hot pick,
especially in an army where you're so slow.
Here is the current reading of Longshanks, because I saw Kuhul, I'm not sure, sorry, in the comments was saying it does not. It does, because the FAQ for Longshanks reads like this. Okay, when this unit makes a normal move, run, or retreat. Okay, so not charge, importantly, but it can ignore other models, which this is a model,
right,
and terrain features when you trace the path of its move across the battlefield, but it cannot finish that move within 3 inches of an enemy unit.
Right. So interestingly,
that is the current FAQ wording.
Yes, but here's the deal. This model has a special rule, a special ability on it.
I understand. It says you can't pass across it unless you're a Fyreslayer. Yeah, fly. Yeah, I don't know.
Right, yeah.
I say
Yeah, so
I'm ignoring it. You're saying I can't go over it. Sounds like
because
an FAQ to me.
because it's not just an issue of passing over a model. It's an issue of a special rule is prohibiting all movement.
I understand that. I get it.
And so
It's definitely an FAQ.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't believe that they can pass over it, but yeah.
But it's definitely an FAQ, so it doesn't matter what you believe or I believe. It matters what they say the answer is. So there we go. Okay. Cool. Got it. Good picks. Yes.
Those are his two.
What are your two?
So the Axe of Grimnir. It there are no other weapons like it in the game for picking how do I want to say this? For choosing to increase the effectiveness. Most things either increase rend, increase damage, or increase attacks, but very few of them increase rend and damage.
Yeah.
Well, and oftentimes you'll see limitations on that rend improvement. Like for the weapons that improve rend, you'll often see it say, but it cannot improve it to more than rend 3. And we've already talked about the various ways that rend could be going up in this army, that rend could be moving. And so, it's that this is just one more on the pile.
Yeah.
Right.
And one of the weaknesses of the Rune Father is that he has rend 1 on a 3 damage attack.
Mm-hmm.
And this Axe of Grimnir pushes it to rend 2 on a 4 damage attack. And when he pops off with that rend rune, he's on rend 4 with a 4 damage attack. Yep. And he can have 20, or he can't double, but he could if you do the Axe of Grimnir with the Berserker, you could still get to 10 attacks at rend 4, 4 damage.
Okay.
Yep.
Pop. Sure, absolutely.
So that's one of them. The other one that I really like is I'm partial to the Null City and Icon. I like ignoring spells on a 4+. Spells and endless spells on a 4+. There's still enough magic. There's not a lot of magic out there, but there's still enough. Techless is still floating around. Croak's still floating around. That if I'm running 4 or 5 artifacts with this army, which is very possible, by the way, this is getting thrown on the pile because I'm going to have a battlesmith.
Sure. Yeah. I'll tell you my pick because I actually only have one more I really like that you guys didn't pick. Okay.
Yep.
And that is the Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
On the aforementioned Grimwrath guy, the thing that's going to get in his way are stupid ward saves.
Yep.
And you put this on somebody like him, and he's just oh, goodbye, Nurgle. There goes your unit. He will just slice through him. I've seen what this ability does when you put it on a competent melee force. Obviously Sigvald has this ability, the only good unit in an otherwise bad army, but he just cleaves through Nurgle like they're made of paper, right?
Yep.
And this dude is a competent melee fighter. By the way, that doesn't have to be on the Grimwrath. It could be on
of course.
other people as well.
No, but this is Grimwrath number 2. I put the Demon Slayer on. Grimwrath number 1.
Absolutely. He's a great pick for it, right? Because it just means you can turn him loose on units of Blight Kings who he's relatively immune to them, because their little special extra stompy thing doesn't matter. Right, he can just get in there and do a bunch of damage to them if they happen.
They're
to
gonna
kill
have to pile in. It's gonna get hard for a bunch.
He's a small base hitting into 4 big bases. People often stretch their Blight Kings out in a line, right? It's a very common thing to have Blight Kings move forward in sort of a line because they can. So he just can hit a corner of a unit and just go ham and chop that unit to bits. So that's why I like the Demon Slayer. There's a lot of annoying things with annoying ward rules in this game, and that says nah. It's just a great and rarefied answer. That's my one pick. I just don't buy a lot of the other ones. The Fiery Ring, no, please stop. The Master Rune is neat, certainly to have a 3+ ward for a phase.
Yeah.
Right? But it's not making my list here. Just the army's tough enough. There are better choices. Which sounds crazy because a ward of 3+ is so insane. But
right.
But
that's the point, is that there's just a profusion of excellent items that one doesn't even normally get a second look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, my issue with it is it's too easily dodgeable. What I mean by that is like if I know that you've got that and it's on that guy, I'm just not going to target that guy with a thing I want to kill, right?
Yeah.
Like I just won't let you activate it when it means anything.
Yep. The +2 charge rolls, like again, like you can get +1 elsewhere. Like you can make that count.
Yeah, my point is I'd want it on a melee type hero who wants to go fight, and there are already better options. It's like 3 other better options in this list I would put on the melee hero who can go fight.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the issue.
Ash Cloud Rune could have been an epic choice if it would have done spells and shooting.
Yeah. Yep. That one because it's just spells and like right now there's just maybe I'll say this, the Ash Cloud Rune could change in value if we hit a more magic heavy world.
Yep. Right.
But like right now there's just not a lot of people using offensive spells on your army. It's people use spells to buff their own units, right? Am I doing Arcane Boulder? Am I doing Mystic Shield? Like, what a joke of a choice, right?
I would have even settled for like keep it with spells, but just spells don't work within 12, because then at least my priest that I dump in there to transport units forward can offer something. Like he can,
Right.
But yeah.
And then the Droth Helm, like I can see that in a Lofnir list, like where you're running multiple Droths. Because you're going to want the Mag Smiter in a support position.
Yeah, sure.
And so
the
that
+1 to wound actually will affect most of will affect the claws and horns attacks because they're normally on a 3-up to wound.
Right. So it goes to 2-ups, and then and it doesn't overlap with like the runes will give +1 to hit. Yep. And so that's like I that's ended up in some of my lists in my Lofnir list. And so what's fascinating is we've just walked through these, and at least 6 of the 10 are solid.
Yep.
That have a real place.
My list might be closer to 5, but I'll give you 6. I don't want to argue over it, because I wouldn't die on that hill. Sure. But you're right. It's a higher hit rate than most any other book we see. Yeah.
No, out of 10, I'm just curious, which one don't you rank out of there? Out of the 6 that I've named,
the Null
Sidian. Okay, that's fair.
Just again, it's one of those that yes, maybe there's a world where it's highly valuable. Okay.
Yeah, you're just saying in the current meta, it is not as much.
Right. That's all. That's not a statement on the nature of that thing in general. And I'm not even sure it's bad to have those things. Okay.
No, totally. Yeah.
I mean,
because the meta does change and armies that are out there do change.
And it gives you a hard counter, right? To castle against Teclis, against because you can move all your heroes or all your kind of strategic spots in one of your big, melee units into this bubble, and which is functionally 24 inches.
Yeah, sure.
And it's against Teclis, Croak, and Nagash, because a lot of Nagash's damage is coming from arcane bolts.
Sure. Yeah. And if we start seeing him on the table more, then this thing increases in value. Yeah, I don't disagree. Okay. So somebody asked, could we please clarify how the +1 attack combines with a drought of Magmot Ale? I'm seeing loads of mistakes on how to handle this. Core rules margin here 22.2.4 handles it. Yes. So the basic rule of what happens when you have to apply both addition and multiplication to a single number. Normal rules of math effectively apply here. So multiplication and division happen first, then addition and subtraction, right? So you would if you have +1 attack and you have double your attacks, you double whatever the number says,
and then add 1.
And then add 1. So let's say it's 3 base, you go to 6, 7. You don't go to 4, 8.
So some people have tried to make the argument that based on when they are being applied, because it's during certain phases,
sure,
right? are adjusting the characteristics and then being applied afterwards. The reason why that doesn't work is because it's keyed on the attack's characteristic.
Right.
Okay. And so, like you have a singular number that is getting modified. So either it's being multiplied or it's being added. And so those calculations are always interfacing, and the doubling is always being taken into effect before the addition or subtraction. Yep. This is why, by the way, when you get affected by like a half movement spell, running still works.
Well, or why bonuses to charge are really good against like the demon prince of Khorne ability, right?
Khorne,
because if you have like +2 to charge and you get your charge halved, suddenly
you have it, and then you add +2.
Then you add the
nice
+2.
cushion. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So all of a sudden, like the 5-inch charge isn't that impossible anymore, even though it became a quote unquote 10 on the dice.
Because and like on runs add a D6 to your base characteristic, so the halving happens before you add the D6.
Right.
It's the same type of thing. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Prayer scriptures and mount traits. Tom, I just want you to talk about the prayers here. Tell us about the prayers.
It's interesting because when I look at the prayers, there is nothing here that like stands out that I'm going to use every turn.
Yeah, I agree.
But I want to be able to use all of them every game.
Well, which fortunately is actually possible.
3 of the 4.
Potentially.
Like 3 of the 4 I want to use every game.
Okay.
Prayer of Ash is wonderful because it basically is a buff to one of your Fyreslayer units that gives them -1 to be wounded. Sorry.
Yep.
And so this is functionally a variant. This is where this used to be -1 to hit, and it moved to -1 to wound. So it's basically it's like the aura that what's their faces used to have. Permdar used to have, but now lets you pick a unit and buff them 18 inches out, which is nice, right?
It's good. -1 to wound, good buff.
Is a good buff. Moving down, Ember Storm. It gives the run and charge to Hearthguard Berserkers or Volkites. Always amazing because you're going to use that.
We've talked about why we all stand that already. Yes, more run and charge is good.
Yep.
What's scarier than that Hearthguard or that Grimwrath Berserker getting in there and mixing it up? Well, in fact, it's getting to do that in the hero phase. And Prayer of Grimir's Fury will do that because it's a Fyreslayer hero without a mount. Within 3 inches of enemy unit, they can fight in the hero phase. So it's hot. Wrath of Voltrix is the only one that really falls down for me, and it's simply because it allows a Magmadoth to fight at the top of their damage table regardless of how many wounds they've suffered. And I mean that's fine, but in the current meta where we can spend a command point to do the same thing when we need to, it is somewhat redundant. Now this would let you like all-out defense or all-out assault and do and fight at the top of your profile, which is fine. So there are some uses for it. It's not completely useless, but it's the one that is the weakest to me.
Yep.
Doug, I'm coming over to you for the mount traits. You can pick one Fyreslayer's Magmadroth hero to get a mount trait. And we'll talk about obviously ways to modify this stuff eventually. There is a sort of weird comical thing about this, but what's your take on the mount traits, Doug?
I honestly, the first 2 are really the ones that I would take. Maybe all of them are good. How about that? I'll just say all of them. I mean, one of them, like the stomp, it adds some mortal wounds to when your monster does a stomp. The other one,
some mortal wounds.
I mean, when we're throwing 40 freaking axes and doing 6s to wound mortal wounds, yeah, it's some.
Well, I mean, you're going from a D3. You're going from a D3 to 3 plus a D3.
Yes.
Like, that's a big swing.
Yes, it is. It is. My favorite is the second one where when you have a Magmadroth and it does the fire stream, its attack's characteristic is based on the number of models in the unit you're hitting, up to 10. And so this just says if it's below 5, it's treated as 5, which I like the consistency. It makes the gun more meaningful against heroes, which is it's not a super long range, but it's a cool little.
It could be neg 2 rend.
Yep. Yes, again, easily.
Yep.
I'll tell you, Coldheart Ancient is hardcore my absolute pick. Like that is, I want some of that sweet, sweet Thunder Lizards action. Bring it into me, baby. Give it to me, daddy. Because subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of melee weapon attacks against this thing.
It is good. They're all good.
Well, I mean, it's only melee weapons. That's fine. But what's fascinating to me is that like you see the best of all of the abilities across the entire meta sprinkled in at various points in this book.
Yeah,
sure.
So like you get 1 unit that's going to be resisted against multi-damage. You get 1 unit that bypasses ward saves.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's like, again, for a Johnny who can pull all the right strings and line up the right fights, it's golden.
Yeah.
Because it gives you a tool for everything.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Doug, my biggest problem with, by the way, just a small note to the writer of this book. I enjoy the Youngblood adult ancient thing. It's cute. Yeah. I like that progression. Yeah. It's a little thing. They didn't have to do that. It's just a neat thing. I like when writers write cool stuff like that. It's nice. It's a fun little sort of narrative progression.
It speaks. Abilities. Right.
Yeah, it's just cool. So shout out. Well done. Sometimes it's the little things. I hate Lava Tongue Adult, Doug. And I'll tell you why. Not because I disagree with any of your appraisal of it. I completely actually agree with your appraisal of it. I just think it's how their Roaring Fire stream should work. Yeah. Like, I don't think this should be a mount trait. I think this is just how that
it should default.
Shooting attack should be. Right?
Yes.
Like,
I would agree.
It is a feel bad when you have this like stream of fire and it's like me against heroes. Or like a giant who's huge. Right?
Yeah, it's more like the Lugia fire at that point, right?
Yes,
like it just,
he plays he fires like I play Call of Duty, which is not good.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if it or imagine if it calculated based on either model count or wound characteristic, whichever's higher.
I mean, that would be hilarious. But I mean, like, again, just this is the kind of thing that should just be an ease of use thing to make some shooting attacks on monsters not worthless. They're already not great when you're dealing with like ultra short range stuff like this.
Yeah.
Like, what are you afraid of? You know, it's come on.
Yep.
I mean, Sentinels aren't priority targets anymore. Aren't priority targets, so they're clearly fine. So go nuts.
This should be the standard, and then the mount trait should be like it does number of attacks equal to its value for holding an objective. Like Kragnos, 30 damage.
Or like add the mount trait would be like add 3 or 5 or double the number and increase the maximum accordingly.
Of course,
right? So instead of capping at 10, you cap at 15 or something like that. Like, well, that'd be neat, right? So you can have a real like he's got a lot of spits hot fire. Dialin. I spit hot fire. Okay.
Yeah.
So, anyways, there you go. Alrighty. Lodges.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're going to do here is, to cover this, we're going to each pick our lodge. Okay?
Got done.
Yes.
So, Tom, what lodge are you joining? Yeah, you get to go first. You get to join the lodge first. You get pick of the litter, as it were, Tom. You were the first to the magma hold.
Well, I know what Doug's going to do, and so I'm going to.
Oh, that's nice of you. You can do something.
I'm going to not take it. I'm just going to go with Vostard.
Okay.
Because Vostard to me makes Volkites great again.
Sure.
Now let's not get excited. Not the shield ones. They're just still okay.
Asterisk right there.
Yeah, like 1 inch reach, 1 attack models. It doesn't matter how many bonuses of hit and wound you're giving them.
Right.
But this really turns up. The double axe Volkites. To the point where it's because when they're coming in on twos to hit 2. So it gives +1 to hit and wound to Volkite Berserker units that made a charge. And so you're going to be running, like, I think the right way to run this army, if you're doing bodies, is to run waves of Volkites with Flame Keepers. So, like, you have your generic, like, shield guys that engage or either take the charge or do the initial engagement. And then they're going to lose some models in that first round of combat, or the whole unit. They'll charge up the Flame Keeper, and then you countercharge or you retreat them out, to rally them up, and then you do your second wave, which is your Axe Volkites, and they're going to come screaming in hot on, like, they get +1 to the double axe, get +1 to attack when they charge. So they're going to, like, 10 of them will come in with 30 attacks, 40 if the Rune Father's nearby and pops his bonus attack. Yep. So, like, let's just say 30 attacks on 2s and 2s. And then with that Flame Keeper, he can pop his ability and give them an extra damage. So 2s and 2s, no rend, 2 damage each. If you pop the Fire Rune, they're all mortal wounding on 6s to wound.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's just it. When you think about the stack with the runes there, like, obviously it's item on item on item that can actually make. That's why I said, if you just read the scrolls, you're like, I don't get this. But when you start seeing these combos pop, you're like, oh my god, yeah, it's 30 attacks on 2s, rend 1 or 2, damage 2. Like, whoa, okay, now that's a whole different ball game, right?
Right, and that's 170 points coming in.
Right.
Yep.
And the best part about this is that, like, they can retreat out, right? We're talking about these kind of waves. They can retreat out, and you have a Battlesmith that's rallying on a 4+.
Sure.
So you're going to refill those units quickly.
Yep.
All right. Good pick. Doug, what lodge? You're next up. You've arrived at the Magma Hold next. You're banging on the door. What lodge are you seeking entrance to?
Tom teed me up. I'm going Greyfeared. The morally dubious mercenary ones who their deal is add 1 to the wounds characteristic of friendly Greyfeared heroes that do not have a mount. In addition, you can pick 2 additional artifacts of power. And for me, what that means is the rest of the list is going to focus on objective play, and then I'm going to arm to the teeth a couple of cruise missiles of berserkers and other heroes and play the game with my opponent of, can you take these objectives and also try to play a defensive game in your backline against these things, right? Try to zone me out when it's just a third, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. Because as long as I know I have a number of, like, real threats in my pocket that I can put on the table at any time, and they're low cost investment, I don't care if they die, but they put my opponent on tilt enough to make mistakes.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Greyfeared is the cash rules everything around me force, because like we already just talked about how there is a good number of good artifacts. Getting 2 extra artifacts is a lot of extra artifacts on that list.
Yep.
Especially in a world where you have heroes who aren't leaders.
Right? Yeah. The first list I wrote was a 7-foot hero Greyfeared list.
Yeah. That was my thing too,
Obviously, I'm the last one to arrive. Surprise, surprise. And I've begrudgingly asking to join. And if I'm going to join, I want the one with all the puppies. So I'm going Lofnir. It does exactly what it does for all the monster stuff, which is add 2 to the wounds characteristic of friendly Lofnir Magmadroth units, which actually makes them have, like, quite a bit of wounds, by the by. These aren't small wound people. And in addition, up to 3 Lofnir Magmadroth units in your army can be given a different mount trait. So you can have...
Yeah, which is all the mount traits.
Which is all the mount traits. I hope you liked those 3. Those are what you get. Yes. Correct. So,
but it pushes all of your Magmadroths up to 18 wounds.
It does. That's what I'm saying. It's not a small number of wounds. Like, they start at 16. This isn't Stegodon's getting +2 where they start at 10 and go to 12 or something.
Yes.
Like, this is 16 going to 18. It ain't small.
And you can run, like the big thing, you can run a 6 mag army, right? Because you can run the 3 battle line Suns. The Suns are all super fighty. Yep. And so I'm a big fan of Lofnir. Like, I think that there's a lot of heat there. I don't know that I would ever run 6. I think I would run 3.
I think it's easy to fall into the trap of, like, just because you can do something doesn't mean it's a good idea.
I think the right Lofnir army there is 1 of each, like a father, a son, and a smiter,
and then a holy smiter.
and then the Holy Smiter, Father, Son, and Holy Smiter, and then a bunch of like bodies for objective play and support heroes.
Sure. Do lodges apply to the entire army? Yes, as long as whatever's in the army matches whatever's going on here, right? So, like, with Vostarg, Tom's pick, it's only Volkite Berserkers who are getting this bonus, right? But yes, all of your Volkite Berserkers will get it.
Yes.
Now,
but also keep in mind. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah,
no,
I'm sorry.
Go, please. Go for it.
I was just going to say, keep in mind that the lodges affect everything in your army that's not an ally, even though there is a command trait that lets you be an ally for a turn that's only for the allegiance ability with the Urgold. Yeah. So it is a separate thing, but yes, it's army wide.
Yeah, and the only unit that has a keyword associated with it is the Underworld Warband, which are Vostarg. Which again, one of like all the models that aren't the hero in that Vostarg are Volkite Berserkers.
Right.
So they would get the +1 to hit and shard or hit and wound.
Now we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is that, oh, how the mighty have fallen. Welcome, my friends, to the you were good in the previous instance of this book tax. Take that, Hermdar. You were the default choice for 99% of all
I don't understand.
armies.
What is this thing you're saying? No, right? What is it called? Never heard of it.
Yeah, never heard of it. What a non-ability this is. Just ridiculous. It's so bad, it's hilarious. I love when these things happen. When they swing the pendulum so far to the other side. Like, never be the best sub-faction in an edition. Because when the edition rolls over and you get your new book, you are instantly the worst. Like, by a country mile, you are the worst.
Yeah.
Keep your head low. Embrace mediocrity.
Yeah, it's just like it's
all good
not
lessons.
Even close. They're so terrible. What was the? Why can't I think of it? Who were the Stormcast double shooters in the previous?
Anvils of Heldenhammer.
Thank you, Anvils of the Heldenhammer. The name would not be summoned in my head. We should just call this being anviled. Like you got an anvil dropped on you or something like that, because it's this. That's the swing, right? That's the example. From best to worst, it's just all the way across. Okay. Cool. All right. Now the part of the show that I hate. Okay, now's the part about baking muffins. So, grand strategies and battle tactics. We're gonna get through this quickly. So
their narrative.
Sure, I'm gonna take the lead here. Tom M said Petrifex Elite is totally screwed. Oh, you're not wrong, buddy. That's gonna be horrible whenever that new book comes out. It will be like the worst ability.
Exactly.
That they will get the same ability as Hermdar, where they will have battle shock losses in an army immune to battle shock.
Yep.
That's how bad it'll be.
Yeah.
Okay.
+1 bravery.
Right. Right. Okay. Here we go. The thing about these grand strategies and battle tactics is that, like most of these, the grand strategies are underwhelming and the battle tactics are silly, but things you will keep in your pocket when you can basically get them for free. So the standard rules of all of these apply. They shouldn't be written. They shouldn't be in these books. Please stop. I'm going to keep saying this. I don't care. Call me Pliny the Elder over here, but Carthage must be destroyed. The Guarded Lineage. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there is one friendly Auric Rune Father and one or more friendly Auric Rune Sons on the battlefield. No, just no. Okay. Great. Why?
Or a battle line unit.
Like, there's or whatever. All right. Or how about your monsters? Since they're both monsters, how about you just take the one that's like monsters are alive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Defend the lodge. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are no enemy units wholly within your territory. Never, ever, ever would you take this, because you never know what's going to happen. You're not a highly mobile army. People have drops and teleports. Yep. Oath Takers and Skull Breakers, the old name for what used to be the good Hermdar ability. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you completed at least 4 battle tactics, and every battle tactic you completed this battle was from the Oaths of Battle list on page 75. Holy Moses, that is hard. That's the
best name, most unlikely to be completed.
That
Yes.
is one of the hardest grand strategies I have ever seen in print. That is shocking.
It's like
Shocking.
moonwalk backwards on one foot. Cool.
Right. And Masters of the Forge, when the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are any invocations under your command on the battlefield. Like, okay, sure.
Well, you can almost guarantee that with the rune wall because you just summon it and then it stays.
Just leave
and
it.
You never have
just
and
put
just
it
leave it.
somewhere.
Yep.
All right, so whatever. Battle tactics. Look, they are what they are. I don't want to read all these.
Kill more things. They're all just kill more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, they're not all kill more things, but a lot of them are. The only thing I'll say, the only thing I want to read on this list, there's two things I want to read on this list.
Is the awesome one.
There's actually two I want to read on this list. I'm going to ignore the rest. I'm sorry, but here we go. There's two worth talking about. One, Settle a Grudge, because it's funny and it plays into the grudge thing and it's narratively cute, and I appreciate it. I appreciate when they write this kind of stuff in. Each time a friendly unit is destroyed by wounds caused by an attack make a note of the enemy unit that made that attack in a book of grudges if you wish. When you pick this battle tactic, pick one of those enemy units that is still on the battlefield. You complete this tactic if that unit is destroyed. It's cute. I like it. It's fun. It's flavorful. It will be an autocomplete on the turn you choose to activate it. Like, you're going to lose something. This is like your round 4 or 5. You're just going to do it when the unit that, like, when the unit of long strikes that shot your dudes is down to one long strike guy, and you know you're going to go kill that dude or whatever. Right? That's what you'll do. And you've already used broken ranks or everything else.
Yep.
The hilarious one I want to talk about is an ignominious death. Them openly admitting that the axes are terrible in the form of a battle tactic. Like, I've never seen a battle tactic that's a self-own.
Yeah,
and that's what this is.
Making fun of the army. Yeah.
Yes, it's literally making fun of their own rules. Pick one enemy hero. You complete this tactic if that enemy hero is slain by wounds caused by an attack made with a fire steel throwing axe this turn. Holy crap. I don't know what to do here. If a person completes this, I almost feel like they deserve some kind of special award at a tournament. Like, just completing this battle tactic should qualify you. In one round, in one of 25 rounds, during a tournament, if you get this completed, I feel like you've earned something.
Yeah. So I think I'm taking Fyreslayers to. So I have a narrative event coming up for Ren 4. I think I'm going to take Fyreslayers to it, and it's one of my goals is going to be to get
an ignominious death off.
So I'm going to aim because it's it's a Triumph of Treachery, so it's like 4 players at a table.
Oh yeah, sure.
And I'm going to try every game to get it once.
Sure. I say, good luck. Yeah.
Now they don't actually use at the event. They don't actually use battle tactics. That doesn't matter to me. I'm still going to try to do it.
Irrelevant.
Yep. Yeah. So there we go. I mean, the rest of these is pretty much what you would expect them to be. They're more variations on the base ones, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. It's that turn your whole army throws axes at a skink priest. Yeah, exactly. Like, get him! Get that 4 wound goblin with a 6-up save. We're gonna get him!
Get him! Sweep the leg!
All right. Let's get into the Warscrolls. My goodness, this is a long show. All right. We're gonna move through the Warscrolls somewhat quickly. Fortunately, there's not a huge number of them. We'll give them their due.
Only heroes.
Yes. Oops,
okay,
heroes. I like that.
So let's talk about the Auric Runefather on Magmadroth. This is sort of the new. This will give us a lot of the new format for the Magmadroth as well, because a lot of these abilities are going to carry over. Yep. So move 12 on a diminishing profile for monsters. The wound table has been moved up as we would expect to the standard 4 tiers, not like it used to be. So like as we see these books roll, we go to the 4-tier wound chart, which is a good quality of life change. 16 wounds, 4-up save, 8 bravery. So again, is much higher, like is solid amount of wounds at 16 wounds.
The 4-up save was sad to me.
Yeah, sure. I mean that's the thing here, right?
Right.
You wanted a 3?
Yeah, I wanted a 3.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, every hero wants
That,
a free
like
thing.
that and the breath weapon.
of course,
Like,
yeah.
that and the breath weapon are the two things that felt like misses to me for these Warscrolls.
Yeah, which I think is worth talking about. So obviously he's got his little throwing axe still because everybody carries their little axes. And then he has his roaring fire stream.
By the way, it's rend 1 on him.
Yeah, it is. Yes, he's got. Well, he sharpened it up more.
Yeah.
He takes
He's
good care
really
of that axe.
good with that hand axe.
He's up in the air. It's more. He's got more sort of leverage, momentum, angle, something.
He's the one that throws last.
Sure. To get that. Yeah, exactly. Come on,
Final point,
Lucky
yeah.
X. Bam. Okay. The roaring fire stream, as we mentioned, its attacks characteristic is equal to the number of models in the target unit up to a maximum of 10. So, like, just reading that, what you're talking about is an attack that hits on a 2 if he's unwounded, wounds on a 3, neg 1, rend 1 damage, right? Now, obviously, if you only have one attack, that is not that impressive. And that's what happens when you target heroes or other things like that. Now, he has this other rule that I also hate just because I hate mental tracking stuff like this. Wherever Shu is at, this is the exact kind of thing that Shu, I think, would despise.
Yes,
if
he
you
does.
watch this Shu and you do like this rule, please tell me, but this is the kind of thing that I think he hates and I hate too. In addition, at the end of your shooting phase, if this unit did not make an attack with its roaring fire stream, you can say that an inferno is raging inside. If an inferno is raging inside, improve the rend characteristic of its roaring fire stream by 2 after the next attack by 2. So the next time it does it, it's now rend 3 instead of rend 1. So cool stuff.
Yep.
After the next attack is made with this unit's roaring fire stream, it is no longer raging inside. So there you go. So if he alternates his shooting to every other turn or something like that, then he can go to rend 3. Okay. Even at full potential, like 10 attacks, it's okay. It's okay. Like that's it. In the best possible circumstances of like 10 rend 3 attacks, it rises to the level of okay, because it is a 9-inch range thing.
I would have just been happy with the salamander breath.
Just literally cut and paste what it says on salamanders. Yes, they have a better attack. Yeah, 100%.
The smaller Magmadroth, yes.
Yep.
The other children of Volcatrix.
Or dragon breath weapons. I would take the dragon breath weapon too.
That's the last thing we need more of. Okay.
Moss.
Melee, he's got his big grand axe. 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, neg 1, 3 damage. As you mentioned already, that's the challenge here is the rend 1, but there are ways to mitigate that, as we've discussed. And then the Magmadroth itself is obviously his mount. But, I just mean for rules purposes, it's a mount, so these 2 attacks are mount attacks. He has the Blazing Maw, 3 attacks on 4s, 2s, neg 2, d3 damage, and the Claws and Horns, which is 6 attacks if he's unwounded. 3s, 3s, neg 1, 2 damage. So, as we mentioned, there's lots of ways to play with the damage here. The profile of this. I think if you looked at him straight, he's like okay on those stats.
Yeah.
But when you think about
you can get him double piling in.
Yeah, all the different ways we mentioned. Like here's the double attacks, here's the double piling in, here's a lot of different things we could do. +1 rend and +1 damage, right? Making him rend 2 damage 4. It's just there's options here.
Well, and he can take the trait so that when he stomps, he does a D3 plus 3 mortals.
Yeah.
Like before the fight starts.
He could activate the heroic action to be getting the enhanced rune of whatever turn you're on. So like +1 to hit and +1 to his attacks characteristic, right? So
Blazing Maul would have moved to rend 4 too, rend 4 as well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, Blazing Maul would be rend 4, Grand Axe would be rend 4, and the Claws would be rend 3.
Yeah, if you're saying if you did the rend trick with the weapon. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Or you could watch your friends block a Plague Bearers evaporate if you give them the no ward save one on all those multi-wound weapons. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, again, this guy can become a really scary threat. We should also just very quickly mention his Lord of the Lodge ability because it is worth talking about. Because he has another one of those.
We'll see it again and again. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a command ability almost kind of like type of thing.
Yep.
Right? Once for battle, at the start of your combat phase, you can pick one friendly unit on the battlefield with this ability to unleash the Wrath of Grimnir. If you do so until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by friendly Fyreslayer units while they're wholly within 12 of that unit, which of course is also including him. So again, more ways to get more attacks, more damage, more everything. Because then if he uses that and then he has the command trait to double pile in, it's actually going to end up being a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extra attacks just from that ability alone, right? That kind of thing. So
yeah.
Yep.
It should be noted, by the way, that the way that this is worded, even if you have multiple Rune Fathers spread across your army, you only get to trigger this ability once ever.
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay.
Because once per battle, you pick one friendly unit.
Yeah, I understand.
With the ability.
Yep.
Yeah.
In this wording is actually, I believe, slightly different from the IDK wording. But that also prompted a lot of discussion last week as to how these things are working.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like this. I don't like this new wording. They need to stop using this wording because it is very confusing. Yes. Like, regardless of how we'd read it, this and the IDK Achillean King ability are both going to need FAQs.
Yeah.
Because casual people who just kind of read this over would say, okay, cool, each, Orc person I have can do this.
Yep.
Once per game. Like, that's the easy read of this. Okay? And
I agree.
And like this has slightly different wording.
That's how I want it to work.
But it runs into the same problem.
Right.
Okay.
That's how I want it to work.
Sure, but you can easily see how somebody could interpret that differently. Right? No, I'm picking a different guy and activating his once per battle ability because, like every other ability in the game that has once per battle, doesn't create mutually exclusive. Right.
Right. Right.
So yes, exactly, Kuhal. There's that weird difference, right, that's happening here of this unit. At any rate, they're both going to need an FAQ. Stop writing it like this. If you want to make it so you can say, however many of these guys you have, you get to do this thing once, okay? Then write that.
Yep.
Just write that game language. Say, like, this is just off the top of my head, so it's probably still wrong, but like, once per battle, at the start of your combat phase, right? One guy can do all this, blah, 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 blah. And then the last sentence you make is, once this ability has been activated once this ability has been used, it may not be used again by any blah. Right? By any other.
Yeah, for the rest of the battle. Yes.
Yeah. Like, put something like that on the end, make it super duper clear. Like, there's no reason for that. There's no reason for this confusion. Okay, cool.
Right.
Oh, we should say their points too. Sorry.
And he kicks back mortals, by the way, in melee.
Yeah.
So
still has the volcanic blood.
Yep.
So he's worth 8 mortals or 9 if he's got the +2 to wounds. Assuming he goes from live to dead at some point and isn't healed. All right. So this dude, the Rune Father, is 360 points. I think perfectly reasonable.
Dude slaps for 360.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Auric Rune Sun. Many of the same abilities. Right? Still has the fire stream, still has the tail, still has the volcanic blood, all that kind of thing. Same profile on the thing itself, the mount itself. Yep. Okay. What's Tom? Explain to us the difference for the Rune Sun for everybody. Like, obviously he has this vying for glory and slightly different weapon options. So why do you like this guy? Where is he useful?
In general, I like him the least of the three. Okay. But I still think he's useful. I like the Ancestral War Axe as my weapon. 5 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend, 2 damage. So he has 1 more attack, 1 less damage. But the key is if he targets monsters and throws a 6 to hit, the wound becomes mortal wounds, and the attack sequence ends. And so he has the ability to really output some mortals. I think that the Wormslayer Javelin is still a trap. So that's where I'm at.
Okay,
I'd agree with that.
And we should also state that the Rune Sun, who's 320 points, he is the cheapest of your Magma Droth riders. This is the one that becomes Battle Line in Lobby.
Yep.
Yes. Like, which he's perfectly acceptable for Battle Line. But if I'm having to pick between him and the Father, I'm probably going to pick the Father.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's tough because the Father has a better base attack. But for 20, but like if you can't reuse the multi-attack bubble, the bonus attack bubble, then this guy is a better like default extra, like second pick is what I would say. Because he's buying for glory.
Yeah, it's nice to have that option against monsters. There's a lot of scary monsters in the meta, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then finally, in our Magma boys, we've got the Rune Smiter, or Mag Smiter, as you called him earlier, as all the cool kids call him. Again,
you have a Mag Father, a Mag Son, and a Mag Smiter.
Right.
There you go.
And so, again, you've got the Fire Stream, you've got the Tail, you've got the Volcanic Blood. This guy's special thing is Runic Empowerment, which is rare.
No, his special thing is not Runic Empowerment.
It's different than the other two, is what I'm saying. That's his
special thing is Curse. He's a priest. And so the key with him is he's the number one curse bearer in the army.
That's fine. I was going to talk about his unique prayer, Tom, but fine. Cut me off at the legs.
Don't stop. You're wasting your time with the unique prayer and +1 to wound.
Wait, don't.
That's BS. Don't waste your time with any of that. His unique ability is called Curse, and he's going to run. He's going to run into combat. Run out 12 inches and then curse somebody at 8 inches.
Sure.
The next turn. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah. I mean, his default prayer is not bad. I just want to say that. Like, he does have a decent range, +1 to wound.
And he's going to be your carer of the Mag Helm, too. Like the +1 to wound bubble for Magma Droth weapons. And so you're going to equip him with that to support the Father and the Son. And then you're going to also use Curse. Because, of course, you are.
Yeah, I mean, yes. You have a lot of powerful priests. This is one of them. He's tough enough that he'll live and can be up in the, near enough to the mix to start cursing people, and curse is very scary. So, no, it's a perfectly viable point.
Especially when there's hand axes throwing around in mass. Sure.
Suddenly you're completing an ignominious death. You curse that hero, and then all those little axes start coming up.
This is 30 axes on average. I will do 5 mortal wounds.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever I play my Skaven, I live and die by that curse, baby. I've got little priests running around just trying to make it happen because it's the way I'm doing work. It's how we get the work done. We don't have damage otherwise, so I get it. Okay.
Correct. Rune Sons they lose Behemoth. I don't know if they lose Leader.
By when they become Battle Line, I think it's the key that they lose all other ones and become just Battle Line.
Well, if that's the case, interestingly, you can throw them in the added D6 movement battalion because that's because they would yes, they're not behemoths or leaders anymore. Yep. Well, no,
they would just become
no, you couldn't do that. No, because they have to be behemoths in order to be in there. So I guess that wouldn't work.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Alpha Beast pack? I thought you were talking about your other thing. No, they still have to be behemoths. That's the problem. If you turn battle lines into if you turn behemoths into battle lines, they can't go in Alpha Beast pack anymore.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Because they keyed that to behemoth instead of to monster or something. Anyways, Fajul Grimnir and his chosen axes. Tom, is this thing worth caring about?
Nope.
Cool. Yeah. Doug, anything you like? Anything you care about with this guy?
No.
He doesn't even get the good Rune Father bubble. So he's a Rune Father without the actual ability that you want.
Cool. Let's move on. I like when Underworld's warbands are skippable. I'm fine with it. It's fine.
Let's find a book with only 4 Warscrolls altogether, or whatever the heck we got here.
So much so, let's be very clear. Like, you know how this is embarrassing. You know how I said that a Midwest Meltdowns is doing like a free Underworld's warband?
Yeah.
I'm looking at taking Fyreslayers for that. And if I do
you're
that,
not taking this warband, you're taking it
I'm
from
not
some
taking
other
this one.
army, yeah.
I'm taking the KO one because I'm going to
Sure.
throw them in a frigate with 5 Thunderers.
Sure.
There you go.
But like that's how bad this is. I look at it and I'm be like, no, I don't want these guys free. I'd rather a different free one.
Yeah, sure.
In the army that they actually benefit from all the abilities for.
I agree with Noops, who said Fajul is a source of is a good source of nice looking minis. They are some of the better looking minis out of the range.
Yep.
That is true.
All of my mags I converted using the Fajul and his chosen axes.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
All right. Auric Runefather on foot. So
I love this dude.
now we've got a 4 move. He's just got to move a 4, Tom. Did you notice that? It's not 4 inches. He just moves 4. We don't know what the units are. Could be anything.
Little did you know, it's 4 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, they're in the UK, so it's meters.
Yes, absolutely. Isn't there a name for the distance between the sun and the earth? Like, isn't there a name for that measure of distance, like an AU or something? I'm pretty sure that's an actual measure of distance.
I don't know.
I say he moves 4 of those.
So anywhere. Got it.
Anyway, yes, they forgot the little inch symbol, which is a funny joke. Okay, 4 inch move, 6 wounds, 4 up save, 8 bravery.
He also has the Neg 1 Rend Fire Steel Axe.
He does, yes. Well, all the Rune Fathers keep them axes sharp, buddy. As do the Rune Sons. It's very instilled. It's a family legacy of sharpening your Rune
It's
axe.
actually the heroes
you're throwing
for
axe.
those that have not caught this.
Yeah. The important part about these guys that we need to discuss. So he does still have the big great axe, like we talked about earlier.
Yep.
But the important part that we need to bring in with excellent. Yes, I was right. An astronomical unit. Boom. All right, I remembered a thing. God, it's been a long time since I learned that fact. I am very happy with that. At any rate, yes, he moves 4 AUs. Deal with it. FAQ it. Prove to me otherwise. Okay. What's important about these guys that we're going to deal with here is the retinue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna kind of walk everybody through the retinue thing here. At the start of the first battle round, before determining who has the first turn, you can pick one friendly Auric Hearthguard or Hearthguard Berserkers unit on the battlefield, not Volkites. That's relevant.
Right.
That's the important part.
It
or
is.
if you took that particular oath, a Grimwrath Berserker. Right? That would be the third option, sneakily. That is not another unit's retinue to be this unit's retinue. In other words, you can't double dip. There's no doing sort of pickup work here for multiple different leaders. Okay. Royal Retinue. Before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this, by the way, this makes me so angry. Before you allocate a wound or a mortal wound to this unit, instead of making a ward roll for a wound or mortal wound that would be allocated to this unit, if this unit is within 3 inches of its retinue, you can roll a die. On a 1 to 2, it still applies to them. On a 3+, it's allocated to the unit's retinue. If the retinue has a ward, you can make a ward roll before allocating that wound or mortal wound to it.
They codified bodyguard ward saves here.
Yes.
I give up.
The design team was like, hey Vince. Meh.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can have him do like an aneurysm on air. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Like, we literally did the Legion of the First Prince show where we walked forever through this entire argument. By the way, that's still not settled because it doesn't have updated text. But now we wrote the Cruel Boys rule, where in the Cruel Boys, it says, instead of making a ward roll, okay, got it, cool, I don't get it on my main guy, with it, understood, you can send it over to this other unit. That unit may not negate this roll. It may not negate this wound. Right? That's how the Cruel Boys thing is written.
Yeah.
And they set this precedent very clearly. One roll. That's what we want. Stop rolling a million dice to negate wounds, which is how the game should work.
Nope.
And then they went, nah.
The Kings of Ward saves are back.
And
Love it.
I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
I love it. I
And
love
then,
it.
the other thing I'll mention is that they have the other thing the retinue is doing. That's not the only thing the retinue does is absorb. These leaders also do the whole bring their unit with them when they fight. Much like we saw with the plague bearers and the like plague leader guy, or the special Blight King heroes and the Blight King dudes. This new thing they're doing where it's like the underpowered foot hero, if they fight, they get to bring their buddies with them to all fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because in Greyfear, this guy is 7 wounds with a 3-up ward. Like passing off, like 3-up bodyguard that's passing off.
I'm with you. I got you.
2 Hearthguard Berserkers likely that are going to 4-up ward it.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, what a great experience.
These dudes are going to be difficult to remove. And like the most egregious thing, and we'll get to this with the Battlesmith, is that like against shooting, you're going to be able to rally your bodies back.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And so there's a good shot that you will actually get across the table with your hero and their retinue.
Yep.
Like, Haywo once made a table on a stream where he had bodyguard pluses and then like a word, and it was like 6-up, meh, 5-up, good, 4-up, great, 3+, insane, 2+, stupid, shouldn't exist, okay, on bodyguarding. Right. Because it just ends up like being a super ward save. Now, I have less of a problem with occasionally doing that trick, all right? If the unit you pass to, you're still getting some kind of damage on.
Damage through, yeah. But
the fact that you can just pass it to more guys that then negate 50% more of the wounds, it's just like, come on, man. What are we doing here? How many... Okay, I'm going to do some damage to you, and then I'll leave and get a sandwich while you roll all the dice over and over again until I do no damage. How's that work? Sounds great.
And you're going to rally them, so you're going to put those models back.
Yeah. So, good stuff. And he also has the Lord of the Lodge thing. All right.
So this is playing exactly how I like to play.
Sure. The Auric Runeson, 1 less bravery, 1 less wounds. Oh, by the way, the Rune Father is 125 points. The Rune Son is 80. 80.
Yeah.
Bargain basement Rune Sons.
Hey, he's trying to drop some paternity money he's owing people. He's like, oh yeah, just send all the boys out. It'll be great.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, this guy also has the retinue and royal retinue and dauntless assault ability.
I'm actually not hot on the Rune Sun. I know a lot of people are. Like at 80 points, I look at that and I'm like, for 25 more, I could have a Grim.
Exactly.
Nope, that is the problem. I don't disagree with you. I look at the two of them and I'm like, yeah, I'm going for that Grimwrath.
And that Grimwrath is not taking a leader spot.
Right. Yep. Agreed. Okay. Let's keep going. The Auric Rune Master and Rune Smiter. So welcome to Priest Town. As Tom earlier mentioned, these are our 2 primary priest.
As an aside, because of where the Rune Sun is priced, you could reasonably have a 10-man unit of Hearthguard Berserkers and a Rune Sun allied into another force.
Sure.
Yep.
And they still maintain the retinue bodyguard.
Yeah, they'll still bodyguard him. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting combo, like, of pieces that you can still bring to the table. So it's and as allies. That's a nice little, like, I appreciate the pointing, like the points where they are, because that makes that a very real possibility.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
So kudos, design team and testers.
Auric Rune Master is 125. Auric Rune Smiter is 135. Again, very similar stats, but 6 wounds on the Rune Master, 5 wounds on the Rune Smiter.
I love that Rune Master.
Yeah, and I assume we all love the same thing about the Rune Master. Which is like
all prayers.
He's good. He's actually good because he gets all the prayers, which solves the problem you mentioned earlier, right? Because the prayers are actually quite a versatile tool, and suddenly getting all of them, so you can still only pray once because you can only chant once. Yeah. That's just a generic rule, but it then gives you the right tool for the right job at the right moment.
Yep.
And then wise counsel. At the start of your hero phase, if your general is within 3 inches of any friendly Auric rune masters, you receive 1 command point. Which, by the way, if
Always.
he is your general, then he's always within
I guess he would.
3 inches of himself. Yeah.
Yep.
And so you just get a bonus command point if you make him your general, which is an interesting thing, especially because remember, this is the guy who can double strike runes.
Yep.
Right.
Or explode into an endless spell.
Or explode into an your choice.
I'm just kidding.
Your choice.
I made Tom slap his forehead. That was mission accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is like, I generally prefer abilities that don't force me to lose strategic key pieces in order to actually see reality.
But it is a hot swap. It's a hot potatoes. It trades you.
You're getting 1 model for 1 model, Tom. What's the difference? Okay,
Exactly.
Jeez.
Making models on top of models, man.
I hear that. This is your standard forge attendant as well.
Yep.
Sure.
So you're gonna you want one of these guys in almost every army because they're gonna stand by your forge.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a great carrier, by the way, of that brazier. Because they're going to be sitting in that backfield in that double range.
Just push that invocation way out there.
And by the way, what I don't know, because we never ruled on what it means for something to be a range. Their double range may actually let you shoot 48 inches on the shooter spell too.
I thought they FAQ'd that, but maybe that FAQ disappeared because
it did. It disappeared in the last one, and gotcha. So you may be able to get a 48-inch shot off of. So that brazier may actually work for all the invocations in different ways very well.
Cool. Yeah. Give you a last cannon and Age of Sigmar.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Clearly they'll probably FAQ it the same way again, so I wouldn't bank on it, but it behooves the question. And then the Rune Smiter is still the Rune Smiter. He's doing what you think he's doing, which is magmic tunneling. That's why you took this guy in the army. He is still a priest. He could still have curse. He can't curse when he pops, but he could, if he lives or you double turn, he could then move forward and curse.
You're going to take curse on him as your secondary prayer.
He still couldn't, even on the double. Sorry, he couldn't move up because it's in the hero base.
But what you can do is you can set up in such a way that hopefully when on the charge they pile into your 9 inches.
There we go. Yes, correct. That's so that when it rolls back to your turn, you can curse him. Yeah, there we go. Okay. He's fine. I mean, he's a tunneler. He's a big mobility piece. That's why you have him in lists. It's not a great mystery, right? You're an army of 4-inch moving people, and this gives you an ambush. So
yeah, and to be fair, I actually like him tunneling up dual axe Volkites. That's a really interesting pair to me. Before I would pair him with Auric shooters, 10 Auric shooters to pop up and shoot something off the table. That's not possible anymore. No. So I like him as a Volkite delivery system. And actually, I started with 10 Volkite double axe guys for 170. I'm really hot on 20 for 340, even though all of them aren't going to get into combat. They're just not. That's so much meat.
Yeah, it's just a big old, piles of meat have their own value.
That's so much meat that you can go into a really tough target, charge, and then fire off your pile in and death. And so even though not everybody can get into combat, you can trust that they're going to remove a bunch of models, and that means you can pile in potentially with others or something. I don't know.
Yep, sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I mean, if you pull your casualties cleverly, right? Okay.
Yes.
So now we get to our totem team. Team Totem. So the Flame Keeper and the Battlesmith. I love how these are just divided into pairs, all these heroes, right? It's just just all these heroes. The Flame Keeper is our new guy. Doug, is this the best looking Fyreslayer? The Flame Keeper?
It is. The closed helmet is
it's doing a lot of work, right?
Yeah, it's carrying the faction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally the Rune Smiter.
That closed helmet makes all the difference, my friend.
Yeah, in a world of everyone wearing the same loincloth, a helmet is a way to stand out.
I understand that. I hear that. But he literally has a flaming latch axe.
Yep.
And is holding something in the air. He does have a triple mohawk, which does set him apart.
I would never notice that. I would notice the face mask. We got the man in the iron mask over here, okay? I look at faces. You know, like, because that's what humans are supposed to do. All right. So, this is the new guy, obviously, that came with, was introduced in the box set. And, you know, I mean, the key with him is, as your troops die, he builds up a bonus, and then he can pass out that bonus for, you know, stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Which is most often going to manifest as +1 to damage for their melee weapons.
Yep.
I mean, Doug, you know, you mentioned earlier about the, like, part of the joke of getting the Infernoth for the guy was it's like there is something to be said for having like a refund, like a rebate, right, on your purchase, and this guy gives you a rebate on your purchases of your troops, right? It's like, oh, you lost some things, but here's a rebate.
It does, but it's each time a friendly Fyreslayer. So what? It's 12 wounds worth of dudes have to die before you get to do this.
10, because you start with the dice at 1 base.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay.
So you lose 5 guys. The key is you have to lose 5 guys. So it's half of a Volkite unit.
Right.
Okay.
Because that's what you want. You don't want to lose Hearthguard Berserkers.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
So the key is you're trying to sacrifice Volkites, or potentially you could be using. And this is something we haven't talked about. You could be using Oryx as screens.
Yes.
And if they're your screens, they're going to die easily and charge this guy up.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, I like him. I love the idea of consolation prizes. You know, like Blades of Corn.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's their entire allegiance ability. But this is a cool little thing to inject, especially if you're doing not Hermdar, but whatever you want to focus on, large blocks of infantry. You'll
Vostarg or whatever, the Volkite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's best in like Vostarg, where you have these big blocks of infantry.
I will also state in my Vostarg list.
Sure. I will also state that Grimnir's Resolve isn't terrible. Okay. As one of your other options, like the +1 damage clearly stands out as being truly amazing.
Of course.
But Grimnir's Resolve, where if the unit you give this buff to, which by the way that happens at the start of the combat phase.
Yeah. You can pull a unit into combat with it.
Correct. Yep. They can suddenly charge, which is interesting because it's at the start of the combat phase, not your combat phase, right? So an enemy consider the world where an enemy charges you, but they did charge your chaff or something or whatever, right? And then you can suddenly say, okay, hey, these Hearthguard over here, now you're in, right? Like off-turn response charging, as we saw with, as we see with Iron Suns, and as we see with, why can't I think of it? Yeah, big guy. Did you say his name? Glotkin, thank you. Yes. Good Lord. Sorry, it's getting late. It's really powerful. It's super powerful because it turns fights where you would be losing into fights where you're winning. It also, if used on your turn, can dodge things like Unleash Hell.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you're charging in the combat phase, not the charge phase, hence they can't unleash on you. So like any off phase charging is a really powerful ability. So don't sleep on that one. That one has the most, like, I like it that there's 2 different abilities. One is just straight power. Like, hey, guess what? Bonus damage, super good. Right? But the other one is like this really strong tactical piece, and it does play to that toolbox capability you were talking about, Tom. Right?
Well, not only
like,
that,
if you've got these tools, you use them at the right time, you punch above your weight.
Well, no, like, let me present another possibility. So Grimnir's Wrath.
That's my fave of these. Not the damage one, but
which is like they can fight. Basically, they can frenzy fight. Before they're removed. It's really interesting to me on Poleaxe Hearthguard.
Sure.
Because Poleaxe don't need the +1 damage characteristic; they're wanting mortals.
Right.
Yep.
And so that actually lets you get it. Like if you get into something that's meaty, that's going to pick up models. This lets you say it doesn't matter if you're picking up models. I'm coming in.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
And then finally, the Battlesmith. The Battlesmith is, Mr. Ward Save guy. Friendly Fyreslayers units wholly within 12 have a ward of 6 up. Okay. In addition, once per battle in your hero phase, you can pick one friendly unit on the battlefield with this ability to plant its icon. If you do so until the start of your next hero phase, friendly Fyreslayer units wholly within 12 inches of that unit have a ward of 5 up instead of 6 up. And importantly, he, the Battlesmith, he's Mr. Ward Save. Like, we get it. It's weaker than it was, and I'm glad about that. I don't like.
Well, it was +1 to save. Now he's giving it to 6 up ward.
Yeah, sure, but depending on what your units are running, you may, or the rune you've struck, you may already have this ability, right? That's the trick.
Sure.
He can sometimes non-bow with other elements of this army. But the funny part about him is that he needs an immediate FAQ.
I love it.
I mean, I don't know if it needs to be immediate, but go on.
Because he has Bard of the Lodge. If this unit issues the rally command, you can return one slain model to the unit that receives the command for each 4+ instead of each 6.
What's missing?
The word Fyreslayers.
Yeah,
looks great.
I know. Yeah,
rally dragons back.
Yeah.
This is how we get Games Workshop to do stuff. We say, hey, you can't change that until you release the Flamekeeper as its own kit separately. Rather, it'll buy us a couple months to a year.
No, I mean, what I'll say is this: I agree that you should not be able to rally dragons and other crazy units back,
and fulminators and every other crazy thing in Stormcast. Yes.
Yeah, I want to suggest that I think that this should be Duerden keyworded.
I would love that,
and not Fyreslayer keyworded.
Honestly, Tom, I would accept Duerden just fine. Although I truly, truly, truly hate that world we would live in, because what it would mean is probably a lot of Iron Drakes suddenly popping back into existence every round since those idiots never die.
Maybe. I mean, like, awesome. Yes,
I'm for it.
I think that it adds an interesting utility for the army. Like, it speaks to something else greater that's happening.
Yeah.
Right. And the command trait did that as well. Like, I would love to be able to include one of these guys in my Barak Thring army. Like, and I think that that speaks to that. You still don't get the ward save for everybody, but he could rally, and I love that. I love that possibility. So I am hopeful. I don't know that's going to happen, but I am hopeful that they might consider doing Duerden keyword instead of a
Fyreslayer specifically.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be Fyreslayers. Okay.
I mean, you're right. That's the conservative way to go about it.
Yes.
Sure. All right. Now let's talk about our Slayer team. So we went from the sort of runes, the sort of generals,
priest team to totem team,
priest team to totem team to Slayer team. Okay.
Missile team. Yes.
So the Grimwrath Berserker and the Doomseeker. We've talked a bunch about the Grimwrath Berserker. Again, you look at his basic profile: 4 attacks, 3/3, -2/2 damage. It doesn't feel that impressive. But when you realize that at the end of the combat phase, if this unit's within 3 inches of an enemy unit and has fought no more than once on a 2-up, he can fight again. And if he's killed and he's fought no more than once, he can fight before he's removed from play. In other words, he's more or less always fighting twice is the idea. And there's a million ways to ramp him up, as we've talked about already. And he's not a leader. He's just a hero. And he's 105 points. He's great. He has his own special allegiance ability. Love him. Why does
there
the
are some
exist?
armies? There are some armies that will run 10 of him.
Yes.
I repeat my question. So the Grimwrath Berserker is 105. The Doomseeker is 85. Why does the Doomseeker exist?
There are hyper corner cases where the Doomseeker does more damage.
Okay, sure.
I'm going to say no. I
don't disagree that that is mathematically possible, what you've construed, but I agree with Doug.
Yes. No, I agree. It is not like I'm never going to take the Dooms. I'm still not going to take the Doomseeker. He exists because he was in the Silver Tower box set.
Yeah.
And they turned him into a clamshell, and so they wanted to keep a place for him on the mantle. But the reality is that he's just not that good, which is sad because I have like 12 of that model. So they were only $3.
I would have loved it if they just would have said they're both Grimwrath Berserkers. And it's just like same stats, one Warscroll. These are just 2 different models. that are both Grimwrath Berserkers. We know you idiots are going to spam them anyway, so now you can have 2 different models for them so they don't all look the same.
Well, here, let me pitch another one, which is Grimwrath with Runic War Iron, right? So it's a Grimwrath that has the same profile.
Sure.
Does that make sense? It has the split profiles. Because I think that split profiles, even though it's not as good in some ways, it's also better. It receives certain buffs better and stuff like that. I agree. The Doomspeaker Seeker should have the Grimwrath keyword.
Yeah. I just do not understand why this unit exists.
No, I would love him if he not at the retinue ability, but if he could pick another up to 5-man unit of Fyreslayers, pick an enemy, and then you're all really good at killing that. Make him a different kind of missile. But as he is, he just doesn't do anything unique or interesting. No. The Grimwrath Berserker is way better.
Right.
But yeah.
All right, let's talk units. We're finally to the troops. It's not going to be the longest section because there's only 4 of them. 3 of them, technically.
3 of them.
All right. Well, there's 4 Warscrolls.
Do not believe their lies. There are 3 units.
I think they're they do a good job of making them feel very separate. It's actually some of the most separate things in the game is the 2.
I mean,
the armies.
By that logic, Tom, there's only 2 units in all the Flesh Eater courts.
It's
everything's internal kit bash.
All right, Auric Hearthguard. These are your shooters. Okay, they have the magma pikes. It's their shooty weapon. They make 2 attacks at an 18-inch range on 4s, 3s, neg 1/1, and every unmodified 6 to hit reduces the movement of their target by 1 inch to a maximum of half. That's their thing. That's what they do. They can be a retinue. They are 170 points. Would you like to now compare them?
No, they're 125 points.
Oh, sorry. What did I say? Sorry, they're 125 points. Yeah, I apologize.
Yeah.
Would you like to now compare them to Bliss Barbs?
I mean, sure. Bliss Barbs are the closest things in comparison with them. And when you do a point per attack ratio, Bliss Barbs are actually more offensive than the Auric Hearthguard are. So if you let's do it this way. If you take 10 Auric Hearthguard for 250 points, 10 Bliss Barbs at 170 are going to be doing more damage and be more mobile.
They're going to be more mobile. I do not think they do more damage. 10 Auric Hearthguard make 21 shots.
Sure.
10 Bliss Barbs make 21 shots.
Right.
They're both on 4s, 3s.
4s and 3s. The same profile.
On 4s. It's the same profile.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the point, is they're doing the same damage as a unit that is 80 points cheaper. And they have worse mobility.
They do, yes.
And
they have 1 better save and 2 better bravery, I guess. I'll give them that. It's not nothing.
But sure. And they melee better.
Double the wounds.
Sure, and they double wounds. And so the problem is
that
small
difference.
I understand that, but these guys aren't fulfilling an actual role, and that's the problem.
Sure.
Okay, because this unit is not it's supposed to be a shooty unit, but it's actually not good damage, and it's terrible on the Unleash Hell because of the base 4 to hit, which goes to 5s. The one function that this unit used to have, it used to have 2 functions. Let's say that it used to bodyguard for heroes, any hero, so you could protect your battlesmiths, you could protect your priests. You can't do that now,
right?
But more importantly, I would still take this unit if they did double damage against monsters, which they used to. And now they don't. And so they actually, the problem is they do poor range damage. And in fact, I would rather take 5 Thunderers as an ally at 135 points than take 5 of these guys. Because those Thunderers are going to have better damage, the same wounds, and better save.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd take, I don't know. I'd probably take Iron Drakes. Is my honest answer.
Well, at 170 for 10, maybe. What I would say is this, because the problem is their shooting actually is the same as these guys when they move. It's better when they don't move. Sure. So these guys actually have better shooting than Iron Drakes if you're moving.
I understand that, but you still have the ability to give them the necessary rend, and they don't need to move very far. Like Iron Drakes are
Sure.
going to move to a point in this army because you're not going to bridge them or something like you
Yes.
normally would. But after
I
that,
mean,
they're
you
not
could
really
Arcane
moving
Tome
on.
and Bridge, but yes.
Mm.
I mean, what I would
you
say is
can't
this.
take an endless spell off of the Arcane Tome.
Oh, can't you really? Because you don't gain the
It's the
wizard
order
keyword.
of list building.
Interesting.
It's why giants can't technically take endless spells, even though people do it in their lists all the time.
Interesting. I did not realize that. So the other critique that I have is that normally the original thing I would do with Orc or Hearthguard is I would do like 10 of them with the Rune Smiter, and I would deep strike and shoot, and as like a distraction piece. But the reality is that's 300 and what is that? 135, 250. It's 385 points.
Yep.
For something that's literally just going to explode when anything touches it, right?
Sure.
Because it's like 10, 20 wounds on a 5-up save. What's interesting is that for less points, you can take a frigate and 5 Thunderers, have better shooting in deep strike every round.
Sure.
So, like, the one thing
And still
this
fit within
army
the allies number.
and still fit within the allies and be cheaper than this one-off deep strike that can't reposition every turn.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And so one of my critiques ultimately is that they just don't fulfill the purpose that they need to, which is artillery.
Yep.
They're actually much closer in points to like raw damage and range to Iron Guts than any other unit in the game.
You don't mean Iron Guts. You mean
Or not Iron, Lead Belchers, sorry.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're closer to Lead Belchers.
I was gonna say, if they were Iron Guts, we'd all be singing their praises.
No, yeah, you're right. No, they're Lead Belchers, which aren't good artillery units.
Sure.
Right? Like they do some, but that's what they're closest to at their points and all that. And so, like, if people want to point to these guys and say that they're good artillery, they're just not.
No.
There is better pound for pound every day of the week. You're getting better artillery from your allies.
I mean,
And
yeah,
so-
the endless spell is better artillery than them.
Well, let's move on to a happier subject.
So,
Let's
like,
talk about Hearthguard Berserkers. Okay.
it's really hard to take. Let me just say on the Oryx, at the end of the day, there's just not really a reason to take them.
That's fine. Let's talk about Zerkers. Okay.
Yeah, cool.
Because if you liked Hearthguard Berserkers before, you probably still like Hearthguard Berserkers now. Because job was a good, and I guess they decided this scroll was just fine.
Well,
Control C.
Yes
Yep.
and no. They reduced the range from like having a unit or a hero within 8 inches to wholly within 9, which is a huge change. What this means is that you can't deep strike with Hearthguard Berserkers anymore and maintain your ward save,
Oh,
which is
cool.
huge.
Sure.
Which is huge because otherwise they and the hero have to get into the charge.
Yep.
The Rune Smiter.
It's a
which-
crazy powerful ability. It's and like
It is.
the trick is, you're right, it's harder to use on the offense, and clearly what they wanted here was for the Hearthguard. I mean, it's kind of in the name, like
Yes.
Hearthguard.
Guard. Yeah.
They wanted this to be your anvil unit, right, where it kind of moves
Yes.
forward, sets up on a point with the Fyreslayers hero nearby, and they're like, hooah! Right,
Yes.
and you can't shift them off the point. Which, by the way,
Right.
that kind of thing they can still do quite well, because
Yep.
then they'll be on a 5-up save and a 4-up ward save. Assuming Sigvald doesn't come to town, they'll last, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because there was a story where, like, one of the introductions of Sigvald in the stories,
Yeah.
he's just killing Hearthguard Berserkers in
Yes,
mass. He's just like,
I remember
walking through,
that one.
slicing
I read
through
that. I
them.
love
Every swing is killing one, and mathematically that's accurate because he shears off their entire save and ignores their
Yes.
ward, and their as average damage is one of them. So,
Yes.
so it's funny how narratively accurate that is.
Mm-hmm.
And they still can do mortals through the pole axes, or
Yep.
they can have rend and multi damage through the
Yeah.
broad axe. So
Right.
it's a good unit.
And they can double tap with that rune to do mortal wounds on the wound, right?
Yep,
Right.
on the wound roll.
Yes.
Yep.
Because this is a hit. Okay.
Because this is a hit. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you've got like the flame strike poleaxe and you spark your rune of searing heat,
And the
then it's-
attacks carry through. So
Yeah.
It's
sixes
in addition.
don't start. Yes.
yeah,
which is
no,
a big
it's
deal.
great because what
Yeah.
that means is if you spark the searing rune, right? So let's just keep this super simple and just use 5 of these guys, because that's what you buy these dudes in, right? You buy these guys in 5 of them for 160 points. Cool. So the units making 11 attacks, right?
Yep.
Okay. So with that, their poleaxes, they make 11 attacks. Theoretically, you get about 2 mortals out of that and keep going. And then
2 6s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is 4 mortals.
Or sorry, you're right. Yes, absolutely right. Yeah, because it is 2. I'm sorry. Which you get about 4 mortals out of. Yes, 2 successes. Thank you, Tom. Good clarification. Yes. Right. Assuming you're still on 3s to hit and you haven't pushed it in any way, right? You'll fall to about 7 or 8 hits. That's pretty average, somewhere in that range. Meaning you'll then get 1 more, maybe 2 more mortals on the wound roll off of the rune. So you're getting 5 to 6 mortal wounds on top of the normal whatever else they get.
5.
Yeah. So it's good. Okay. Yeah, I like Zerkers are meant to be the anvil.
And when you run that math, by the way, on the pole axis versus broad axis, it's about the same.
Sure. It very much depends on what you're playing into, what you expect to see, army to army. Different ones will do differently.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a reason to take both, is my point.
Yeah. Agreed. All right, let's talk about the Great Volkite Divide, because now we officially have 2 separate scrolls. There has been a schism in the Volkites. They've splintered off. The Bladed Sling Shield Berserkers, they went to the door of the church. They nailed up their 95 theses on why Bladed Sling Shields are better and the true word of Grimnir. And the other ones were like, nah, we're not with that. And there was a great divide. Schism.
Did you notice the wording change on the Sling Shield Berserkers?
The fact that you don't have to be within the range anymore for the Sling Shield, it's back to just throw them
They
all.
went back to the old wording.
Yeah.
So if you, for some reason, are an idiot and has spent 480 points on 30 of these bastards,
which is doable. These guys are 10 for 170, by the way, which is a good deal.
It's a good day to be an idiot.
No,
that's what Tom's saying.
The Sling Shields.
Sorry, 10 for
160.
Yeah, 10
right,
for 160.
So 480 for 30 of them. And you make a charge, you're gonna, if one guy ends within an inch of like a 5 wound hero, you can throw all 30 shields. They went back to the old crazy super shield throwing version.
Yep,
I love it.
So you can still get your 5 mortals mathematically average on the charge. Yes, which is funny. So obviously these guys are meant to play 2 different roles, right? Clearly in their head, that's what they were thinking, right?
Yes.
Your Fire Steel Hand Axe guys are your super offensive. You put all this in air quotes if you want, right? I don't care.
Yeah.
Right.
Their role is meant to be the hammer. The Berserkers are meant to be more of an anvil. That's the easiest way I can say it, or at least a tougher. Maybe it's more like an attrition. Anvil or hammer or something like that. I don't know. The Sling Shields have a weird role. I'm not sure I totally know what it is, but they're a very different unit. I'll say that.
They're more independent operator objective. They are your deck chair setters.
Yep.
That don't need support.
I like that. That's good. That's good, Tom. Yeah. So the trick with the hand axe guys is obviously they're 2 attack space. They go to 3 attacks on the charge, right? And we talked about we built out some units of these earlier, right? Where we talk about if you're going hard Volkite, which is a doable strategy, I think, then you're going to be in like Vostarg. You're going to be where they're on 2s and 2s when they charge with the 3s. You're going to have the guy along who can give them an extra damage or make them charge off phase or whatever. And then obviously both these units still have their Berserk Fury where they can once per battle fight even if they die. They have Death Frenzy.
Yep. Yeah. So the difference is that like they actually created 2 anvils into like offensive units.
Yes. Yeah, neither of these are true anvils. Neither the Sling Shields nor the Hearthguard are like true anvils, but they both perform better on the kind of sit and like the Hearthguard really just want to sit still. The Berserkers want to like hang back and then kind of jump into the mix closely.
Well, Sling Shields don't really. Sling Shields just want to sit on objective and they want you to leave them alone.
Sure.
Right. Of course.
Charge late game where they're 5 mortal wounds really, or not 5 mortal wounds, sorry. That'd be the unit of 30, which would be insane as a deck chair sitter. Where their couple mortal wounds can matter. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and yes, and like there are going to be 20 wounds. 10 dudes is 20 wounds on a 4-up save sitting on an objective.
Mm-hmm.
Like so, those guys are tough to shift, right?
Yep.
Just because they can all out defense themselves. And like if you like, let's say you put the runic wall near them, you can give them a ward save, so they're still independent operating and they don't need hero support.
Yeah, there are three ways to get a ward save for them in this army.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a real difference. Like wherever the main heat is, that's where you want to have your Hearthguard, and then you're going to throw the Sling Shield guys on other objectives. Or I think there's also a case to be made to use these guys as your chaff lines that you move forward.
Sure.
And basically, like they take the hit. You lose a handful of models, even against the worst fights, by the way, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And then you retreat them out and rally them back up. Like I think that, like I
all
think
the
that
while
there's
feeding your guy looking for death.
Yes,
right,
yes,
exactly
your rune scavenger.
Charging his battery.
Yes. So I think that there are some different functions, right? Like I think there are some different functions that these different things play. What you don't have in the army at all is mobility. Yeah, you have 0 mobility units. You have 0 true artillery units.
Right. All right. Let's end off here on Endless Spells and the Pizza Oven, and then we'll call it a night. So the Molten Infernoth. Summon with a prayer that has an answer value of 4 and a range of 12 inches. Remember, if you do happen to take that extra magic item that we talked about, you could double that to 24. If answered, set up the invocation wholly within range and visible to the chanter, more than 1 inch from all models, terrain features, and other invocations and endless spells. His ability is Burning Tide. After this invocation is set up, the commanding player can immediately move it up to 2d6 inches. In addition, at the start of each of their subsequent hero phases, if this invocation is still in the battlefield, the commanding player can move it up to 2d6 inches, so that's its move speed, is 2d6. And Erupting Inferno, after this invocation has moved, the commanding player rolls 12 dice for each unit within 3 inches of it. For each 6, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If the roll to determine how far this invocation moved in this phase was a double, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds for each 6 instead of 1. And at the end of the phase, the invocation is removed. So, like we've seen, the invocations self-remove if they pop off and do their big effect. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about hitting your own people. It doesn't burn them. So.
Yep.
No, I like the guy. Like I've tried. He's tough to include at 70 points.
He is.
You can get him for free with a certain. I'm just kidding. I will convince you of this.
70 points or 0 points, Tom. Just
never.
saying.
It's but I'll say this. I like him. I don't like the fact of having to potentially roll 72 dice.
Sure. Yeah, he makes you roll a lot of dice.
Because you roll 12 per unit.
Yep.
Within 3, which he has a real big base, by the way.
Yeah, he's on a decent sized base. Yeah.
He's a thick boy.
He is a thick boy. So there is a sense in which even if you can move over invocations, by the way, getting over this guy and not being on his base is really kind of tough.
Sure.
And so there's a very, if you back him up and put your models behind him, you can functionally make him impassable because they can't actually get to your guys and can't charge.
Sure. Depending on how the terrain and other things work. Speaking of blocking movement, let's talk about the Runic Firewall. Also continuing a trend from last week where we were talking about stopping people up with horrible, horrible summoned boats. Yes. I don't know how closely you noticed that one, Tom, but yes, you can now just really screw people over by summoning free boats that can block off movement, which is great. I'm so glad that's back. I was thinking that was missing from the game. So, Roaring Runefire, models cannot move across or through this invocation unless they have the, Magmadroth keyword or can fly. Can Sons of Badmet walk over these? It's a good question. Their rule says yes. This rule says no. FAQ says, no. Who knows?
Their rule says they can move over models. Their rule doesn't say they ignore other rules.
I understand that. But if they're ignoring this, then they're ignoring the rules on this too.
No, they're ignoring the physical model. They're not ignoring the rules on the War Scroll.
I get it. I get where you're coming from. Again, the FAQ will say for sure. And then Awaken Runes. At the start of each phase, the commanding player can pick one friendly Fyreslayers unit wholly within 12 of this invocation to draw upon its power. If they do so, the commanding player rolls a die on a 1 through 5. They have a ward of 6 up till the end of that phase. On a 6, that unit has a ward of 4 up until the end of that phase, and this invocation is removed from play. You know why I hate this?
Mm.
I hate this because it's at the start of each phase, and I've got to remember now at the start of
Yeah.
every stupid phase to go. Wait,
You don't.
Okay, hold on.
You don't. You don't if you don't want it to risk it leaving. You just be like, nah, because it says you may do. You may pick.
Sure, you can pick. Yes.
You can pick.
Mhm.
Yeah. So in general, like,
I'm not saying
like,
I would
looked at
actually
this.
roll at every battle shock and movement and phase like that.
Yeah.
I'm saying I've got to remember to do it in the phases where I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's a lot of phases to roll through in both players' turns. Like, oh, God, okay, this unit. Oh, it's fine. 6 up. Okay, next. And then it's like,
I mean,
wait, can we
and
go to
that's-
shooting? Hold on. Wait, hold on. Back it up. It's your shooting phase.
That's why I'm a big fan of Tom's idea of just get the thing that lets you double the range. It's 36 inches. Just chuck it forward. Don't even bother.
Right,
Just put it.
throw it
Yeah,
out there
they
and block
put it
their
in
movement.
their zone area and be like, yeah, you can't move your guys through this area. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Go page. Go page go. There we go. All right, the Zargron Flame Spitter. Oh boy. The name on this guy. This invocation is summoned with a prayer that has an answer value of 3 and a range of 6 inches. So, okay. But, I mean, it has a super long range, and if that also doubles, then you really don't care. This truly becomes the closest thing you have to artillery. But you set it up wholly within range, more than 1 inch from everything, blah, blah, blah. At the start of the commanding player's shooting phase, if there are any friendly Fyreslayers priests within 6 inches of this invocation, the commanding player can pick 1 enemy unit within 24 inches of this invocation and roll 12 dice. Add 1 to the roll if the unit has 10 or more models, add 2 if they have 20 or more models. So rarely will that ever happen in the current meta, but it's cool. For each 6+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If we go back into I'll point out, by the way, that the Flame Spitter's 55. He's cheaper, like the Firewall is. They're both 55 points. If we did end up back in a Horde meta, this actually isn't a terrible invocation at all.
No, it does
Not
real
at all.
damage, and it's funny. It does more damage on average than an actual 5-man of orcs.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
telling you, it's better artillery. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
you're-
it on average does 2 mortals per shooting.
I mean, and
at
again,
24.
if we end up in a world where you start seeing a lot more 10 and 20 man units, you're going to get a lot more mortals out of it, right? Like the closer you push to that magic 6 mortals is nice.
Woe to you, what are they? Lumineth.
Right, yeah. Eat it, Sentinels. You can't shoot my invocation. You can kill the priest standing next to it. But hey, whatever. Details.
Exactly.
Not if I'm 48 inches away.
No, sure. If that works, yes. And then finally, which I don't think it does. The Magmic Battle Forge. Everybody loves the Pete's Oven. At the start of your hero phase, so it's impassable. It's a thing that gets set up at your terrain. It follows terrain rules, blah, blah, blah. Start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 friendly Fyreslayer's priest within 6 inches to control the magmic energies. If you do so, you add 1 to chanting rolls for friendly Fyreslayer's priests within 18 inches of this terrain feature. So nice big range, nice +1 to chanting rolls, everything you would want. It's great, especially if you did take the item that lets you reroll for invocations.
Yep.
Because now you're +1 and rerolling, which is super good. It means you're gonna summon your dudes.
There's 4 ways, by the way, to get a 6-up ward save.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, because you could pop the pizza oven. Yep.
Yep.
And of course, you can still blow the oven once per battle at the start of your hero phase. Instead of using this terrain feature's Molten Blessing, you can pick 1 friendly Fyreslayer's priest and basically blow the whole thing up. And if you do so, until the start of your next hero phase, friendly Fyreslayer's units on the battlefield have a ward of 6 up, but you can no longer use Molten Blessing. It's done. You burnt out the energy.
So you have 2 rounds of full army 6-up ward save.
Sure. Yeah. Between striking the rune and spending the forge. Yeah.
So what I'll say is this, and I've said this in other forums, but I'll say it here now. This army is going to be dependent upon how well you layer once per game abilities.
Sure.
Are you triggering all the things you need to trigger in the right phases in the right order? If you are, you're going to do well. If you're not going to do well.
Yeah, and there's a lot. It's not just the runes like we mentioned and this, it's, a lot of the good artifacts that we talked about have that. Some of the abilities on the scrolls are like that, right?
And your Grimwrath Oaths.
Yep.
Lodges.
Your pylon on death Volkites.
Yep.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, Tom. There is a lot of once per battle do this thing, and if you do that thing when the timing is correct, this army will be very powerful. If you do it when it's if you pop that nitrous
If you miss
too
it
early,
by a turn,
yeah, then you lose. Vin Diesel gets you. That's what happens. All right, Doug. Any final thoughts you want to share on Fyreslayers before we call it a night?
No. I like them. Some of the. I think it'll be one of those things that it's a rewarding book to get really good at, just like you guys were talking about as far as remembering things. And like, I think that will feel very good. And when you combine that with, if you are a more narrative player, the Path to Glory stuff, where you're getting practice games in pretty regularly, that's terrific. What I liked about it overall was like, I felt like more so than the last book, I can actually see an interesting list where you focus on the prayers and the priests. I didn't get that sense before. I just saw a lot of stuff about Hearthguard. So as far as like taking a faction and just fleshing it out, cutting the fat and letting you explore all the things that are in its very limited toolbox, I think it's a win. It's not a powerhouse, but it's not trying to be.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the better honest answer, I think it's one of the better battle tomes we've gotten in 3.0.
And can we just acknowledge that they fixed one of the worst play experiences in the game?
Are you talking about the
ward
firewall
stacking?
inability to target nonsense, or which one of the bad Fyreslayers interactivities are you talking about?
Yes, or the universal Hermdar, like double piling in
Fighting first nonsense.
First nonsense, right?
Yeah,
like
while still keeping that ability in an interesting way with a good opportunity cost. Like not the fight twice, but the fight first.
Right. Like it was a design masterpiece with regard to like finding the right golden middle, the right perfect temperature porridge. Like it's not a super broken battle tome. Like it's not going to suddenly come out and start taking events, but I'll say it can take events.
Sure, I think it'll give a good game. And this is, again, I mean, I can't say it enough. This is how battle tomes should be written. Because I agree with what you said, Doug. There's actually different, like, a lot of the stuff you might not have explored before in what might as well have been called Battle Tome Hearthguard Berserker.
Yeah.
You actually can explore now. Right? There's actually reasons to have these other units in your list. Now, it's not perfect. I do think there's a challenge with Oryx, but between building in with other dwarf stuff, beyond, like other Duerden stuff, between the fact that Volkites have an interesting role now, between having, like, killer Magma Droths, like, there's still a lot more options going on here. That's why it was, like, my number one bullet, like, is still good options. Definitely more than you had before. I wish this is kind of the level we'd hit at battle tomes.
I agree. I mean, the reality is this: like, I will have a pretty robust Night Haunt army when I get done here in a week. And there's a very high likelihood that I will shelve that army and finish up and play Fyreslayers for the next 6 months.
Sure,
just because, like, it's an army that I love. It's in my wheelhouse. I have almost everything painted. There's another 15 to 20 models that I'd want to paint, but it's fun. I already so it is enticing enough that it makes me want to play it, and I'm going to do it for both a narrative event and probably some competitive events in the next 5 months or so.
Nice. Sweet. So good stuff. I mean, that's I think the best praise we can get. A successful battle tome, a good solid mid-tier army with options. I think you can explore both for competitive play and narrative play. Like, good. Thumbs up from me. And the army doesn't interest me still. I have no interest in the aesthetics of these naked baby dwarves, but I'm glad that they made a good book.
Yeah.
Right? So, there you go. All right.
You don't want to do all Magmadroths?
No, I don't. Honestly, I don't like them that much. Maybe if I found, like, a funny alternate sculpt. But anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Doug, absolute pleasure, as always, sir, to have you on. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It is always a great time when 2+ Tough is in the house. And we're going to force him in any way we can to come back again in the future. It is like I'll pester him and pester him and pester him until eventually he breaks down and we get him back on the show at some point.
You make it sound like that. Like I was like, hey, I want to be on, but I just get self-conscious about asking.
No reason at all. Doug, I would kick Tom out and replace him in a heartbeat. You'd be the new co-host. Let me just say that. But at any rate, thank you all so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that like. Don't forget the Patreon's in effect now. So if you're watching this, you want to support the channel and what we do, you want to up your hobby game and focus on some more ways for individual teaching and join a cool Discord community, you can do that. All the Patreon information is down in the description. Obviously, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you've got questions or opinions on anything we talked about today and we didn't cover them, comment that down below. Really, really appreciate everyone watching. Can't wait to see everybody next week at Adepticon for the in-person live show. Don't forget. And so it will be later. I'll repeat it again. The show will not be until like 11 p.m. Eastern. So set your clocks accordingly. But thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday.